Warrior Lore. Chapter 1739. These divine soul devourer ants are far stronger. Du Xiaofu looked at the divine soul devourer ants, whose auras were even stronger than before. There were at least tens of thousands of them, and the closer they were to the front, the stronger their auras were. In particular, the several dozen divine soul-devouring ants at the front had a crystalline, jade-green color amidst the alternating black and white colors. The aura around them was enough to shatter the void around the small figure. Du Xiaofu frowned when he saw their auras. Great Domain Realm. Du Xiaofu frowned in surprise. The dozens of divine soul devourer ants at the front were actually at the Great Domain Realm of the Beast Domain Realm. At this moment, Du Xiaofu finally understood why the successor of the Great Snow Mountain, Lian Qingrong, had fled in such a hurry back then. With everyone's cultivation and strength back then, how would they dare to attack these divine soul-devouring ants? How did you provoke these divine soul-devourer ants? If you didn't provoke them, they wouldn't have come out in full force. King Mie stared at the beautiful woman. Meng King stared at the alluring lady and asked. This was the first time she had seen the divine soul-devouring ants swarming out of their nest. According to King Mie's understanding of the divine soul-devourer ants, the divine soul-devourer ants wouldn't make such a big fuss if they didn't provoke them. Only by provoking these divine soul-devourer ants would they chase you to the ends of the earth. I didn't do anything. I just felt that there was something different in front and wanted to take a look. Who knew that it would be occupied by these things? It's too terrifying. The beautiful woman was still in shock and was naturally afraid of these divine soul-devourer ants. These aren't the strongest divine soul-devourer ants. The Ant Queen hasn't appeared yet. King Mie stared at the dozens of Great Domain Realm divine soul-devourer ants. Ant Queen? Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. Indeed, they hadn't seen the Ant Queen. The Heavenly Spirit record also had records of the terrifying divine soul-devouring ants. These terrifying existences had their own method of reproduction, and it all came from the Ant Queen. Therefore, they were absolutely loyal to the Ant Queen and only listened to its orders. These divine soul-devourer ants have existed for who knows how long. In any case, they have existed for much longer than me and King Ming in the divine domain. These divine soul-devourer ants have existed since the time of our fathers. If not for the suppression of this space, who knows what level the divine soul-devourer ants would have reached? King Lang said, Ant Emperor, what a terrifying divine soul-devouring ant, Du Xiaofu murmured softly. There were some fluctuations in his eyes. Woo-woo. In just an instant, while the five of them were talking, the most terrifying divine soul-devouring ants had already pounced towards Du Xiaofu and the others with ear-piercing cries. It was really hard to imagine how such a small divine soul-devouring ant could contain such terrifying power. Boom. Du Xiaofu made his move. He punched out and directly blasted several divine soul-devouring ants at the Great Domain Realm. The space around his fist was also blasted apart. The mysterious golden runes drowned the void, and his aura was domineering and disdainful. Woo-woo, a strange scene appeared. Du Xiaofu's punch sent some of the weaker divine soul-devouring ants flying, and some of them turned into blood mist. However, the few divine soul-devouring ants with cultivation at the Great Domain Realm rapidly flew out of the shattered void. They were able to devour the mysterious golden runes and instantly appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu was surprised. Golden light overflowed from his body again, and he punched out again. Du Xiaofu had controlled his punch to be at the peak of the Great Domain Realm. He wanted to know how strong these divine soul-devouring ants were. He was surprised to find that the power of a peak Great Domain Realm cultivation was not very effective against these divine soul-devouring ants at the Great Domain Realm. These divine soul-devouring ants were as terrifying as the rumors said. Their defensive power was also extremely terrifying. The enormous energy contained in their small bodies made their defensive power very abnormal. Bang! For the second punch, Du Xiaofu did not hold back. He punched out violently and sent several divine soul-devouring ants flying. Woo-woo! The several divine soul-devouring ants at the Great Domain Realm were sent flying. Their small bodies charged into the surrounding rocks like lightning, piercing through mountains and giant trees, leaving behind thumb-sized holes. However, the divine soul-devouring ants then pounced towards Du Xiaofu again amidst hissing sounds. They would not rest until they died. They were not afraid of death and would not give up. Bang, 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 bang. Mo Tianxiao, the alluring woman, Mia Ming King, and Thunderhawk King also rapidly clashed with the divine soul-devouring ants. The divine soul-devouring ants that had retreated in the surroundings once again swept over in a dense swarm. The entire void was drowned in an endless sea of divine soul-devouring ants. The strange hissing sounds were ear-piercing and made one's heart tremble. Boom! Suddenly, a dazzling green light soared into the sky from the void in front of them. A vast amount of energy of heaven and earth gathered in front of it, surging through the 9 heavens. Woo-woo! Sensing the commotion, the divine soul-devouring ants that blotted out the sky became even more agitated and fearless. They opened their ferocious mouths and tore at the void with their sharp fangs as they besieged Du Xiaofu's group of 5. There must be something up ahead that made these divine soul-devouring ants so violent. Du Xiaofu blasted a large number of divine soul-devouring ants flying once more as he gazed at the void ahead. The surging energy of heaven and earth was absolutely extraordinary, and there was a reason for it. Mo Tianxiao, Thunderhawk King, Mia Ming King, help me stop these divine soul-devouring ants. Show mercy. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu spoke. His figure was covered in golden light as he instantly swept out, and he used the most overbearing and barbaric method to directly flash towards the source of the energy fluctuation. He wanted to investigate it. Even though these divine soul-devouring ants were terrifying, especially those at the major domain realm, they were even more difficult to deal with. If Du Xiaofu and the others encountered them in the past, they would absolutely be able to flee swiftly like Lian Qingrong. But now, with Du Xiaofu's cultivation and strength, even though these divine soul-devouring ants were terrifying, they were absolutely unable to stop him if he truly attacked. Du Xiaofu wasn't worried about Thunderhawk King and Mia Ming King. Even though those divine soul-devouring ants at the major domain realm were terrifying, these divine soul-devouring ants would absolutely be unable to do anything to them after Thunderhawk King and Mia Ming King had broken through again and were already at the Nirvana realm. With Mo Tianxiao's strength, Du Xiaofu was even less worried. On the contrary, Du Xiaofu was slightly worried that Mo Tianxiao would be merciless and kill those divine soul-devouring ants at the major domain realm. All right. As soon as Du Xiaofu's voice fell, Mo Tianxiao nodded. Green light shook and swept away a large number of divine soul-devouring ants in the surroundings. But then he restrained his strength by quite a bit, as if he had understood Du Xiaofu's intentions from Du Xiaofu's words. Woo-woo, as Du Xiaofu's figure left, those divine soul-devouring ants at the major domain realm seemed to have been stimulated by something, and they immediately abandoned Mo Tianxiao, the beautiful woman, Thunderhawk King, and Mia Ming King and chased after Du Xiaofu in unison. Mo Tianxiao roared like a wolf, and green light erupted, instantly blocking a large number of divine soul-devouring ants. Block. Although Thunderhawk King and Mia Ming King didn't know what Du Xiaofu's intentions were, they didn't hesitate and rushed out together, erupting with earth-shattering lightning and blazing flames, sealing off the void and blocking all the divine soul-devouring ants. Woo-woo-woo-woo! The endless divine soul-devouring ants that blotted out the sky and covered the earth completely went berserk at this moment, and they completely disregarded everything to kill Mo Tianxiao and the others, wanting to chase after Du Xiaofu. The dozens of divine soul-devouring ants at the major domain realm even shouted savagely, "All of you will die! All of you will die!" However, although these divine soul-devouring ants were attacking crazily, it definitely wouldn't be easy for them to deal with Mo Tianxiao, Thunderhawk King, and Mia Ming King. Bastard, are you just going to leave me behind? The beautiful woman cursed as she looked in the direction Du Xiaofu had left. But the divine soul-devouring ants around her were madly attacking, causing her beautiful face to turn pale. Bastard! The alluring woman cursed loudly. Suddenly, a rainbow-like radiance burned on her curvaceous body like a divine flame, sending the surrounding soul-devouring divine ants flying. Then, her beautiful figure strangely disappeared into the void. The void ahead was dim, and Du Xiaofu's figure streaked across the void, traversing the ancient forest and rocks. Chapter 1740. Du Xiaofu followed the direction of the energy ripples. Suddenly, a vast ancient mountain peak appeared before his eyes, causing a ripple of astonishment to appear in Du Xiaofu's eyes. This ancient mountain peak was enormous, its entire body filled with alternating colors of white and black. Light shone from it, faintly rippling with mysterious runes. From the foot of the mountain to the peak, countless caves appeared densely packed, like a beehive. What surprised Du Xiaofu the most was that the enormous ancient mountain peak was not standing on the ground, but was instead suspended in the air. White bones were scattered all around, huge skeletons overlapping one another. These white bones were all riddled with holes, causing one to shudder in fear. The surrounding space was clearly rippling with rich energy of heaven and earth, but not a single blade of grass grew. Walala! Rich energy of heaven and earth gathered in the air, finally converging endlessly into the ancient mountain peak. Du Xiaofu sized it up for a while, his mind calming down. Golden light overflowed, and his figure instantly swept into the mountain peak. The interior of this ancient mountain peak was like a castle. The caves were connected, and it was incomparably sturdy, extending in all directions. What's more, in the cracks of this ancient mountain peak, there were actually many spiritual herbs and spirit vines. There were even treasured herbs. Along the way, those mature spiritual herbs and treasured herbs were also conveniently collected by Du Xiaofu into his chinkuan bag. Shameless human! A delicate voice rang out, and a proud and curvaceous figure appeared behind Du Xiaofu. It was the alluring woman. How am I shameless? Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows, looking at the former. He could not help but be wary of this unfathomable woman, whose entire body exuded a strange aura. Seeing Du Xiaofu's gaze sweep over her body, the alluring woman instinctively covered her chest. Her eyes darkened, and she said to Du Xiaofu righteously, "In the future, if these spiritual herbs and treasured herbs are able to obtain an opportunity to be enlightened, they can all become living beings. You picking them today is the same as killing them. Before they are enlightened, they are only spiritual herbs. Everything in this world has their own Tao, and everyone has their own division of labor. The world of cultivation is even more cruel, and the weak are prey to the strong. Even if they are enlightened, they will only become treasured herbs with a higher value when they meet an expert." Du Xiaofu replied, and stuffed the spiritual herbs and treasures in his hand into his chinkuan bag. He understood in his heart. No wonder no one picked the spiritual herbs and treasures along the way. This alluring woman. She did not have the heart to pick the herbs and treasures in his chinkuan bag. You humans, heavens, you. The Alu, she was the god, she was speechless, and she. Cultivators are practitioners is heaven ins. Du Xiaofu smiled indifferently, then turned around and continued deeper. Along the way, Du Xiaofu followed the direction where the heaven and earth energy gathered and arrived at a vast cave in the depths of the cave. Humph! The alluring woman snorted. Then she looked around the cave where her eyes rippled. She stomped her feet and chased after Du Xiaofu. Dense energy rippled, and Du Xiaofu appeared in a cave. Resplendent green light rippled in front of him, and it came from a stone bed in the cave. At this moment, there was a divine soul-devouring ant the size of an infant on the stone bed. Its entire body was emerald green, and a terrifying aura surged from it. The energy of the world gathered in the surroundings, but it flowed towards a divine soul-devouring ant that was almost invisible to the naked eye beside the emerald green divine soul-devouring ant. This tiny divine soul-devouring ant was only the size of a fingernail. Its entire body was emerald green, and it was crystal clear. Its body was wrapped in a blood membrane, and its tiny eyes were tightly shut. The divine soul-devouring ant that was the size of a baby was connected to the tiny divine soul-devouring ant with boundless green light. Puffed! Suddenly, the two divine soul-devouring ants, one big and one small, spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time. Rumble! The dense energy of the world that gathered in the cave on the mountain trembled and dissipated. The big divine soul devouring ant had 8 strange wings connected together. They were emerald green, and they were as thin as a cicada's wings. It flapped its wings slightly, and its aura was unparalleled. However, it was a little weak at this moment. The big divine soul devouring ant's eyes glowed green. It saw Du Xiaofu and the alluring woman at the entrance of the cave, but it did not pay attention to them. Instead, it nervously checked on the tiny divine soul devouring ant, and it emitted a nervous woo-woo sound from its mouth, as if it was lamenting. It seems like the small divine soul devouring ant has died, the alluring woman softly said beside Du Xiaofu. Although she was wary of the divine soul devouring ant's ferocious appearance, her eyes were filled with some sympathy when she felt that the tiny divine soul devouring ant had died. Du Xiaofu probed with his mind. The life force of the tiny divine soul devouring ant was fading. The commotion just now was caused by the 2 divine soul devouring ants. Woo-woo! The big divine soul devouring ant continuously flapped its wings and cried out. Although the sound was ear-piercing, it made one's heart ache. It felt as if one's organs were being cut to pieces. How pitiful! Although they don't look good, they have deep feelings for each other, the alluring woman said, feeling touched in her heart. Although some demonic beasts are not humans, they are much more emotional than some humans. Du Xiaofu murmured. At this moment, he could see that the small divine soul devouring ant was probably the bloodline of the big divine soul devouring ant, and it was crying out in grief for its death. This made Du Xiaofu involuntarily think of his drunkard father and mother. Back then, when he was tricked by legalism for the second time, his mother was helpless and could only cry tears of blood. How sad was that? At this moment, the small divine soul devouring ant had died, and the big divine soul devouring ant was helpless. The pain in its heart was probably the same as his mother's. You must be the queen of the divine soul devouring ants. Don't be sad. Let me see your child. While Du Xiaofu was feeling emotional in his heart, he suddenly saw the alluring woman slowly walking towards the stone bed. Woo-woo! The big divine soul devouring ant let out a sorrowful cry. It flapped its wings and turned its head to look at the alluring woman. Its fangs were dazzling, shining with a faint green light. Its eyes emitted a terrifying green light, making it look like a demon. Don't be nervous. I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to see your child and see if I can help. Perhaps I can save it. The alluring woman was not afraid of the divine soul devouring ant at all. She looked at the bright green divine soul devouring ant and said. Hearing this, the ferocious divine soul devouring ant calmed down a little. It stared at the alluring woman and Du Xiaofu, then looked at the small divine soul devouring ant beside it. In the end, it opened its mouth and said, "Can you really save my child? I can't guarantee it, but I definitely won't hurt your child. Trust me," the alluring woman said. Her rainbow-like eyes were clear, and there was no malice in them. Don't worry. We really don't have any malice. Du Xiaofu also stepped forward. Although he was secretly vigilant, he really didn't have any malice at this moment. Actually, Du Xiaofu had come here to find the Ant Emperor and subdue it. The divine soul devouring ant was such a terrifying creature. Once subdued, it would be a great help to him. In particular, Du Xiaofu wanted to subdue the several dozen divine soul devouring ants at the Beast Domain and Great Domain realm. With the Blood Soul seal on him, he should have a chance to subdue the divine soul ant emperor. However, Du Xiaofu really didn't have any malice after seeing what had just happened. If the alluring woman with unfathomable strength could save the small divine soul devouring ant, it would naturally be for the best. You've intruded into this place. If you can save my child, I'll agree to whatever conditions you have. If you can't, then you'll be buried with my child, said the divine soul devouring ant. I'm just taking a look. I can't be sure. The alluring woman muttered. She immediately stepped forward. A rainbow-like light spread from her hand and landed on the small divine soul devouring ant. Chapter 1741. The large divine soul devourer ant stared at the woman warily and nervously, green light flickering in its eyes. Du Xiaofu looked on nervously as well. He was surprised by the aura of the mysterious woman. He was sure that she was a demon spirit, but he didn't know what her true form was. At the same time, Du Xiaofu was also on guard against the large divine soul devourer ant, PFFF. After a while, the small divine soul devourer ant spat out some blood. The blood membrane on its body wriggled, and the blood membrane covering its small eyes shattered. Then, its eyes moved slightly, and a faint light spread out as it opened its eyes. "Child," the large divine soul devourer ant said, looking at the small one nervously. The small divine soul devourer ant was curious about everything around it. It opened its eyes and looked at the large divine soul devourer ant affectionately. It struggled to get up, but it seemed to be powerless. "I've tried my best, but it's still not enough. Your child has a heavenly disease, and I can't do anything about it. I can only let your child live for a few more hours." The beautiful woman said to the divine soul devourer ant, looking a little lonely. She had tried her best, but she couldn't let the small one live. Woo-woo. The small divine soul devourer ant leaned on the large divine soul devourer ant affectionately, and it let out a soft cry. However, the light on its body was dim, and its aura was weak. The big soul-devouring divine ant carried its child. Its eyes were no longer frightening, but filled with joy and sadness. It then looked at the beautiful woman, as if it wasn't surprised by this result. It was already satisfied that it could wake up its child. It then said, "No matter what, thank you. You can take all the spiritual medicines here. Your people outside will not be attacked anymore. You can leave. I want to spend some time with my child." The beautiful woman didn't say anything else. She looked at the weak little divine soul devourer ant and planned to leave. "Let me take a look. Maybe I can think of something," Du Xiaofu suddenly said to the large divine soul devourer ant as he walked towards the stone bed. The divine soul devourer ant looked at Du Xiaofu and hesitated. But in the end, it placed the small one on the stone bed and retreated to the side. The alluring woman also stopped and looked at Du Xiaofu with a surprised expression. Du Xiaofu stepped forward and performed a hand seal. He probed with his mind. A white divine ray with an ancient aura shot out from his forehead and enveloped the tiny divine soul-devouring ant. Although Du Xiaofu didn't know much about medicine, he had been influenced by Dr. Woming. He also had the all-encompassing heavenly spirit record, so he was more or less influenced. Du Xiaofu formed a hand seal, and the white light between his eyebrows retracted as he said to the soul-devouring divine ant, "Your child has a heavenly disease and a congenital deficiency. If I'm not wrong, it should be related to you. It's your injuries that are affecting your child. You can see through it?" The divine soul devourer ant was surprised. It looked at Du Xiaofu in a new light. It immediately said with a pleading expression, "If you can see through it, then you must have a way to save my child, right? I can agree to any condition you want, as long as you save my child." "I'm sorry, I have no other way." Du Xiaofu shook his head and said to the divine soul devourer ant, "However, I can let your child live for a few more years. I'll do my best. I hope it'll be useful." After he spoke, Du Xiaofu's expression turned serious. He formed a seal with his hands and arcs of electricity appeared on his body. His clothes were torn apart and light surged above his heart. Finally, his flesh cracked and a drop of blood flowed out from his chest. This wasn't ordinary blood. It was a drop of essence blood from Du Xiaofu's heart. As this drop of essence blood flowed out, it was only the size of a small water droplet. However, there were golden talisman runes erupting from it, and the faint cry of a golden-winged roc could be heard. When this drop of essence blood appeared, the expressions of the divine soul devourer ant and the beautiful woman changed. Then, this drop of essence blood fell on Du Xiaofu's palm. As Du Xiaofu's hand seals changed, it condensed into a small grass in front of Du Xiaofu. It was crystal clear, and the shape of the grass was like a mushroom. It looked like a real object. Waves of terrifying pressure descended, releasing an endless life force. "This is the grass of immortality." The beautiful woman was a little surprised. That grass was the grass of immortality. "Go." Du Xiaofu waved his hand. The crystal-clear grass of immortality wrapped around the little divine soul devourer ant on the stone bed. It emitted a golden light and gradually disappeared into the little divine soul devourer ant's body. The little divine soul devourer ant, whose life force was weak, closed its eyes again. Several kinds of light rippled from its body, covering its small body. Huff! Du Xiaofu withdrew his hand seals and took a deep breath. The wound on his chest was recovering. Under the immortal Xin body, it was healed in an instant. Then, he said to the divine soul devourer ant, "It will take some time. Actually, I can't guarantee the result. I've already done my best." Wuru! Ear-piercing hissing sounds resounded. Countless soul-devouring divine ants were entrenched in the sky and on the ground like dark clouds. However, they had already stopped attacking Mo Tian Shao, Thunderhawk King, and Mia Ming King. Countless divine soul-devourer ants began to retreat, no longer paying attention to Mo Tian Shao, Thunderhawk King, and Mia Ming King. The ferocious aura that gathered around them had also dissipated. Feeling the change in the aura of the divine soul devourer ants, Mo Tian Shao, Thunderhawk King, and Mia Ming King stopped attacking. They were all puzzled. It must be caused by him. Let's go and take a look. Mo Tian Shao said. He knew that Du Xiaofu had the means to subdue demonic beasts. He guessed that the reason why the divine soul devourer ants suddenly stopped attacking them was because Du Xiaofu had already subdued the divine soul devourer ant queen. Whoosh! Then, Mo Tian Shao, Thunderhawk King, and Mia Ming King followed behind the retreating divine soul devourer ants. In the vast canyon, the light was dim and the ground was filled with white bones. Be careful. There were many figures walking in the canyon. They were very careful and didn't dare to be careless. Their bodies were emitting light. It was especially so for some of the stronger ones. Their light was like a bright moon descending, rippling with powerful aura. This group of people were the experts of the school of vertical and horizontal, the dragons, and the legalism. Find them. Those people from the desolate country can't have escaped far. Kill them all on sight. The old man leading the legalism group looked forward and released his consciousness to scout the surroundings. They had entered the Death Canyon and accidentally found some traces of the people from the desolate country. They were chasing after them. That Du Xiaofu must be there too. Find those people from the desolate country. Capture those who can be captured first. Some of them are said to have a close relationship with that little bastard. When the time comes, kill them in front of that little bastard. The old woman from the school of vertical and horizontal had a cold look in her eyes. Du Xiaofu had killed the strongest junior of the school of vertical and horizontal in front of all the creatures in the Chanhuang mainland. She wanted to pay back an eye for an eye. Good idea. Let's capture some ants from the desolate country first. When the time comes, we can kill them in front of that little bastard Du Xiaofu. Only then can we vent the hatred in our hearts. The middle-aged man from the dragon's battle armor said with a cold smile, I tried to break through the boundary 6,000 years ago, but I was suppressed and suffered heavy injuries. Although I managed to survive, my injuries couldn't be healed. Hundreds of years ago, I felt that I was about to reach the end of my life. That was why I started to conceive my child. I wanted her to be the next queen ant, but I didn't expect my injuries to be so severe that it affected my child. I've tried my best and thought of all the methods. I even used my own blood essence as a guide, but I still couldn't heal my child. My time is almost up. In the cave, the queen ant spoke. Her aura was getting weaker and weaker. The small divine soul devourer ant beside her was still wrapped in light and filled with vitality. When Du Xiaofu heard this, he was surprised. He didn't expect the queen ant to have cultivated for so long. She had been trying to break through the boundaries 6,000 years ago. In comparison, King Thunderhawk and King Mia Ming were considered juniors. The restriction here has begun to disappear. You can continue to break through. It's not difficult to break through the end of your life, Du Xiaofu said. Then, he looked at the small divine soul devourer ant on the stone bed and said, looking at the situation now, your child should be able to last for a few years. When the time comes, I'm sure you can think of a way. Chapter 1742. My lifespan has come to an end. The Ant Queen looked at merciless tyrant and said, I am the queen of the divine soul-devouring ants. After giving birth to a new queen ant, I can no longer exist. Previously, I wanted to use my essence blood to help my child recover, but I have already exhausted all of it. Originally, I could have held on for a few more decades, but now, I have reached my limit. As soon as the ant queen finished speaking, green light rippled from her body and she turned into a green-clothed woman. Her face couldn't be considered delicate and pretty, but she had a unique temperament. Green light flickered in her eyes as she looked at Du Xiaofu and the beautiful woman. She said, I can feel that the restrictions in this space have loosened. Perhaps the beasts in this space can escape. You are different from the people I have met, so I would like to ask you for a favor. Speak, the beautiful woman said to the ant queen. If my child can recover, think of a way to bring my child out. Perhaps there will be a way to help her recover in the future. My divine soul-devouring ant clan has been in this space for a long time. We have collected countless heavenly treasures, spiritual medicines, and precious medicines. I can give them all to you. The ant queen said with a pleading look in her eyes. She was willing to give up everything for her child. Hearing this, the beautiful woman subconsciously looked at Du Xiaofu. Indeed, we can leave this space. I can agree to your request. I will do my best to help your child recover. Du Xiaofu nodded. Even if he didn't have any spiritual medicines, he wouldn't refuse. My essence blood and energy have been sealed in my child's body. It will help her grow faster and break through. I have also notified the entire divine soul-devouring ant clan. My child is now the new ant queen. They will protect her with their lives. If possible, you can bring her out together. The ant queen paused for a moment before continuing to speak to Du Xiaofu. Actually, it is not impossible for my child to recover. My divine soul-devouring ant clan has the bloodline of the phoenix since ancient times. I know from my bloodline that there is a nirvana divine pool in the phoenix clan. If my child can enter it and be reborn, not only will she be able to recover from her illness, but she will also have the chance to transform into the supreme ant phoenix of the divine soul-devouring ant clan. I don't have time. All right, I'll do my best. Du Xiaofu nodded. Thank you. I'll leave my child to you. The ant queen said with a smile on her face. In an instant, her expression changed slightly. Then, she seemed to have aged dozens of years. Her aura became weaker and weaker, and her life force was also rapidly fading away. My time is up. It's a pity that I can't watch her recover and grow. The ant queen's eyes were filled with kindness and regret as she gazed at her child who was glowing on the stone bed. She was nearing the end of her lifespan and didn't have much time left. The floating mountain was filled with an ancient aura. It was like a beehive, and the bones around it were riddled with holes, piling up like a mountain. Woo-woo! Countless divine soul-devourer ants spread their wings and hovered in front of the mountain, covering the sky and the sun. They covered a large area of space, and a buzzing sound resounded in the void. Emo Tianxiao, Thunderhawk King, and Miameng King stood in the air, waiting. Did he go in? What's wrong with these divine soul-devouring ants? They don't seem normal. Miameng King felt strange. She had never seen such a densely packed divine soul-devouring ants before. She vaguely felt that something was wrong. This is the nest of the ant queen. That ant queen isn't someone to be trifled with. Thunderhawk King wasn't worried about Du Xiaofu, but he knew that the ant queen wasn't someone to be trifled with. In fact, his father's generation was a junior in front of the ant queen. Let's wait. He won't be in any danger. Emo Tianxiao wasn't worried. With Du Xiaofu's cultivation strength, he guessed that the ant queen wouldn't be too strong. After all, the ancient demonic beasts here couldn't break through to the domain realm due to the suppression in this space. It wouldn't be easy for them to break through now. Woo-woo! Suddenly, as Emo Tianxiao's voice fell, the large group of divine soul-devouring ants in front of them seemed to have been stimulated by something. They've come out. Miameng King exclaimed in surprise. She looked at the sky in front of her. Through the space occupied by the divine soul-devouring ants that blotted out the sky, she saw a man and a woman walking out of the strange ant nest. It was Du Xiaofu and the strange-looking woman. However, at this moment, there was a fingernail-sized green light shining brightly on Du Xiaofu's shoulder. Upon closer inspection, It was a small divine soul-devouring ant. Its entire body was green and crystalline, with mysterious talisman patterns fluctuating around it. Woo-woo! The divine soul-devouring ants that blotted out the sky flapped their wings and hissed. They seemed to be bowing down to the small divine soul-devouring ant. The great domain realm divine soul-devouring ants were no exception. They all submitted to the small divine soul-devouring ant little guy. Let them go in. Du Xiaofu turned his head and said to the small divine soul-devouring ant on his shoulder. The small divine soul-devouring ant leaned on Du Xiaofu intimately. It seemed to be able to understand Du Xiaofu's words. Then, it flapped the 8 wings on its back, which emitted a faint golden light and carried the aura of a golden-winged rock. It let out a soft hiss. Woo! Although the hiss wasn't loud, it was loud enough to spread across the sky. Woo-woo! The divine soul-devouring ants that blotted out the sky seemed to have been summoned. Including the great domain realm divine soul-devouring ants, they immediately flew into the ant nest on the mountain peak. The divine soul-devouring ants that blotted out the sky quickly flew into the ant nest on the mountain peak and disappeared in a short period of time. Mo Tianxiao, Thunderhawk King, and Mia Ming King were surprised. Then, they went to Du Xiaofu's side and looked at the small divine soul-devouring ant on Du Xiaofu's shoulder. Mia Ming King was surprised. He felt that the divine soul-devouring ant in front of him was different. However, Mia Ming King couldn't tell what was different about it. Secretly, he felt the domineering aura of a golden-winged rock. This is the new Ant Queen. Du Xiaofu stretched out his hand and placed the little ant emperor in his palm. This little fellow had finally awakened, and it seemed to have undergone the same transformation as the crimson rock because of his blood essence. It was also much more intimate with him. Sadly, the old ant emperor had already reached the end of its lifespan. The new Ant Queen. Thunderhawk King was surprised. He looked curiously at the new Ant Queen. He was a little curious as to why the new Ant Queen would fall into Du Xiaofu's hands. Looking at the new Ant Queen's intimate appearance, it seemed to approve of Du Xiaofu. This little guy will follow us. Du Xiaofu smiled. The matters in the ant nest had been settled. He had promised the old Ant Queen that he would bring the new Ant Queen out. However, he did not touch the spiritual herbs and treasures in the ant nest. He only took away many of the artifacts, and Tao artifacts, and even the 3 true saint artifacts. He would leave the spiritual herbs and treasures for the new Ant Emperor to nurture the divine soul-devouring ants. This little guy will follow us out? How are we going to bring it out? Where's the old Ant Queen? Mo Tianxiao was also looking at the little guy curiously. He knew that once this little guy grew up, even he would have to be wary of it. Woo! Although the little guy was small, as an ant queen, it was born with intelligence. It knew that Mo Tianxiao was talking about it. It spread its wings and stared at Mo Tianxiao with its small green eyes. However, when it sensed Mo Tianxiao's aura, it was a little wary. It couldn't help but lean on Du Xiaofu's palm. Don't be afraid. He won't hurt you. Du Xiaofu comforted the little guy. Then, he said to Mo Tianxiao, there's something wrong with the old Ant Queen. Let's take everything with this little guy. Chi. As Du Xiaofu finished speaking, the ancient, desolate space flew out from between his eyebrows. A boundless and ancient aura fluctuated. In the end, it expanded and floated in the air. The entire ant nest was sucked into the ancient, desolate space. The abyss was surrounded by cliffs. There was a vast valley below. Not a single blade of grass grew in the surroundings. Only white bones could be seen. It was dark. At this moment, there were dozens of figures standing in the valley. They stood back to back and looked at the hundreds of figures standing on the cliffs and boulders in the distance. Their expressions were serious. These dozens of figures were the Master Apothecary Yi Woming, the Mysterious Dragon King, Ji Jiyan, Tang Miling, and the other people from the Desolate Country and the Hahuan School. There were also a few disciples from the 7-Star Hall, the Profound Underworld Sect, and the Profound Talisman School. Chapter 1743. We're in trouble. These dragons, school of vertical and horizontal, and legalism have surrounded us. The mysterious Drake King looked around His eyes filled with coldness. He had obtained an ancient inheritance and was no longer the same as before. Some of these dragons, school of vertical and horizontal and legalism, are no longer suppressed. Something has happened in the divine domain. The laughing Rakshasa, Tang Miling, narrowed her eyes. What worried her the most was the fact that many of the older members of the various great powers had entered the divine domain. Their cultivation bases were no longer suppressed by the divine domain, and the laughing Rakshasa and Tang Miling were unable to fight back. How strange! These legalism, school of vertical and horizontal, and dragons can completely suppress us. Why haven't they made a move yet? Ji Zhiyin's beautiful eyes moved, feeling strange. At this moment, whether it was in terms of numbers or strength, the school of vertical and horizontal, legalism, and dragons could suppress them, but they had not made a move yet. They must have a purpose. Ghost Child spoke, his back against Tao Yu and the others. His eyes were filled with coldness and killing intent. Don't be too nervous. At most, we'll fight with our lives. We still have a life-saving talisman on us, but not many of them have one. Dr. Wuming said. He looked at the dragons, legalists, and school of vertical and horizontal surrounding them. His gray robes fluttered in the wind. Wuming, you have nowhere to run. Surrender. On the cliff, figures flashed, and several middle-aged and old leaders flew out, looking down at Wuming, the mysterious Drake King, and the others. Their auras fluctuated, bringing with them a pressure that spread out in all directions of the valley. You want us to surrender? I'm afraid you don't have the qualifications. Legalism, school of vertical and horizontal and dragons, you might be able to scare others, but in front of the desolate country, it's not enough. Wuming coldly stared at the leaders. They were the leaders of the dragons, the school of vertical and horizontal, and the school of legalism. With a life-saving talisman, Wuming was not afraid. Wuming, your medical skills are not weak. Why don't you follow my legalism? It's better than staying in the small, desolate country. An old man in his 50s looked at Wuming and said. He had heard of Wuming's name from his subordinates and wanted to rope him in. More importantly, Wuming's status in the desolate country was not low. If he were to follow legalism, it would be equivalent to slapping Du Xiaofu in the face. Do you think the desolate country is small? I, the Rock Emperor of the desolate country, have killed the so-called top experts of your legalism, dragons, and school of vertical and horizontal, like slaughtering dogs. If I, the Rock Emperor, were here today, would you still dare to be so arrogant? Wuming sneered at the old man in his 50s from legalism, but his heart sank. Today was not going to end well, and he had to prepare for the worst. Bastard, you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Hearing this, the old man in his 50s from legalism looked gloomy. He glared at Wuming, coldness shooting out from his eyes. Let's not make a move now. Let's wait for the other elders to arrive. We must try to capture these people alive. If they die, their life-saving talismans will be useless. When the experts from our 3 factions arrive, these people won't even have the chance to self-destruct. A middle-aged man from dragons said to the old man in his 50s from legalism. The old man in his 50s from legalism was filled with killing intent, but the aura surging out from his body stopped. They didn't dare to act rashly under orders from above. They seemed to be waiting for something. Ji Zhiyin said with her brows knitted. She felt that the dragons, legalism, and others had a goal. Otherwise, they would have made a move long ago. The laughing Rakshasa's beautiful eyes swept across the 100 figures in the surroundings. Her body was covered in light, accentuating her exquisite curves. She said, if I'm not wrong, they're probably waiting for more experts to arrive. They want to completely suppress us so that we won't even have the chance to use our life-saving talismans. You're right. It seems like we can only fight head-on. If this drags on, it won't be good for us. Wuming took a deep breath. He agreed with the laughing Rakshasa and Tang Miling's guess. He also sensed the legalism's goal of trapping them. Let's fight. We have our life-saving talismans anyway. If we wait for more experts to arrive, we'll be in big trouble. The mysterious Serpent King said with a deep voice. He was not afraid with his life-saving talismans. If they waited for more experts from legalism, dragons, and the others to arrive, they would be in real trouble. By then, it was extremely likely that they wouldn't even have the chance to use their life-saving talismans. Let's fight. Every kill is a win. Ji Jian bit her lips tightly as she clenched her fists. After all these years of training, she was no longer the same as before. Then let's do it. Yi Wuming's gray clothes fluttered as his aura surged. A soaring aura suddenly surged out from his body as he took the lead. He seemed to have turned into a gray bolt of lightning as he charged towards the nearest person from the three organizations with a powerful soul attack. Kill. Gue Hua, the mysterious Serpent King, Tao Yu, Tang Meiling, Ji Jian, and several dozen others followed in an instant. Streaks of beautiful talismans and secret inscriptions surged out. They all used their full strength, shining with dazzling light. They were prepared to fight to the death. They're just going to fight to the death. Stop them. Seeing Yi Wuming, Tang Meiling, and the others' actions, the faces of the leaders above immediately sank. They sneered as their figures flashed out, immediately pouncing towards Yi Wuming and the others. You overestimate yourselves. Kill. Roar. In an instant, over 100 figures from the three organizations pounced out. Beasts roared like thunder. Serpents soared into the sky, and strange beasts appeared. Accompanied by the terrifying pressure of the three organizations, they quickly clashed with Yi Wuming and the others. Let's fight to the death. The mysterious Serpent King and the others also transformed into their original forms and pounced out with the people from the desolate kingdom. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, the muffled sounds were like thunder. In the blink of an eye, there were miserable cries. Tao artifacts and magical artifacts flew out as their meridians and spirits roared. Yi Wuming, you're still too weak in front of this old man. The old man from the legalism sect appeared in front of Yi Wuming. He stared at Yi Wuming and shot out a torrent of energy, directly pushing Yi Wuming back with great momentum. Thump, thump. Yi Wuming was pushed back, energy ripple surging. His Yuan spirit attack was not very effective. His opponent was a sealed domain realm cultivator, much stronger than him. Moreover, he was an elder from the legalism sect, so he could easily suppress him. PFFF, steadying himself, Yi Wuming spat a trace of blood from the corner of his mouth. However, there was a sinister chill in the depths of his eyes. A cold smile hung on his aged face, revealing a hint of ruthlessness. He, Yi Wuming, had never been someone to be provoked. PFFF, PFFF. Almost at the same time, Tang Meiling and Ji Jian fell from the sky, scraping the ground and shattering boulders. Blood dripped from their red lips. Roar. The mysterious Flood Dragon King was also pushed back by one of the dragons. Although it did not fall from the sky, its huge body twisted and its mouth spat out blood. A bunch of ants who don't know their own strength. The old man from the legalism sect continued to charge at Yi Wuming, his posture arrogant and condescending. He didn't put Yi Wuming in his eyes at all. His cold voice accompanied his figure as he swooped down and stretched out his hand, sending out a palm strike with great momentum that distorted the void, not giving Yi Wuming any chance to escape. As the palm struck, Yi Wuming's eyes widened and a vast aura crushed the void, imprisoning everything. Let's die together. Yi Wuming sneered. At this point, there was no other choice but to self-detonate. You want to self-detonate? It's not that easy. If I can't kill everyone, I can at least kill you. As the ear-piercing laughter rang out, a strange figure appeared. It was the leader of the school of vertical and horizontal. He appeared behind Yi Wuming like a bolt of lightning, his claw already reaching out to Yi Wuming's shoulder. He had already discussed with the old man from the legalism sect about joining forces to capture Yi Wuming alive. The claw was as fast as lightning, reaching Yi Wuming's shoulder in the blink of an eye. It looked like it would imprison Yi Wuming. However, at this critical moment, a golden beam of energy shot out of the void and slammed into the claw on Yi Wuming's shoulder. Ah! In the blink of an eye, the sealed domain realm old man from the house of vertical and horizontal let out a miserable shriek as a bloody hole appeared on the back of his claw. At the same time, a purple figure appeared in front of Yi Wuming. It stretched out a hand, and a golden beam of light shot out and landed in the palm of the old man from the legalism sect. Ah! The old man from the legalism sect let out a blood-curdling scream as a bloody hole appeared on his palm. Blood spurted out, and his flesh was torn apart. His figure was sent flying as if he had been struck by lightning. Chapter 1744. But at the same time, the purple figure moved like lightning. Compared to the 50-year-old man from legalism, his speed was much faster. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the old man by the neck like an eagle grabbing a chick. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Dust filled the air. The sudden change of events stunned Ghostchild, Tang Miling, Ji Jian, the mysterious Dragon King, and the others. Master Apothecary Yi Wuming was about to self-destruct when he suddenly saw the figure in front of him. He was startled and immediately became overjoyed. President, Brother Xiaofu. In an instant, the disciples of the desolate nation exclaimed. They could not help but be surprised. If the figure was not Du Xiaofu, who else could it be? When the disciples of legalism, school of vertical and horizontal, and dragons heard the surprised cries of the desolate nation's disciples, it was like thunder to them. They all trembled for no reason. Du Xiaofu, it's Du Xiaofu. Oh no, it's the Demon King Du Xiaofu. Shock, shock, and fear. The people of the three forces immediately recognized Du Xiaofu. Their faces were filled with horror. Du Young Fu, the 50-year-old man from legalism, who was grabbed by the neck by Du Xiaofu like an eagle grabbing a chick, stared at the man in front of him. He had seen him in legalism before. Above the divine region, Du Xiaofu had killed Qin Wudi, Han Qinran, Han Ningma, and the others. At this moment, his heart and soul were trembling, but his body was imprisoned. Only the depths of his eyes were filled with fear. Kill, leave no one alive, Du Xiaofu said, but he did not attack. He waved his hand and changed it from a claw to a palm. A white light swept out and directly detained the head of the 50-year-old man from legalism. Kill. 3 figures appeared in the void. 3 monstrous killing intent swept through the valley. Green light exploded, thunder and lightning swept, and flames burned. Bang, bang, bang. It was too fast, so fast that no one could see it clearly. They could only see 3 silhouettes breaking through the sky. Then, the legalism, dragons, and school of vertical and horizontal members were directly blasted into pieces with a muffled sound. There was no lack of martial domain stage cultivators among the 3 great factions, as well as the dragons and a sealed domain stage cultivator from the school of vertical and horizontal. However, they were unable to put up a fight against the 3 blurry figures. The figures of the disciples of the 3 great powers exploded one after another, turning into a bloody mist. They were being slaughtered. Ah! Legalism's 50-year-old man was screaming miserably. His face was twitching and white foam was coming out of his mouth. It was as if he was enduring the most miserable torture. In the void, a beautiful woman quietly appeared. Her figure was proud and curvaceous. She was not affected by the killing around her. Her rainbow-like eyes were calm. Then, she stood not far away from Du Xiaofu, seemingly interested in the means that Du Xiaofu was using. In less than half a minute, more than 100 disciples and experts of the 3 great factions were completely annihilated. The murderous aura in the surrounding valley filled the sky. A bloody mist dyed the eerie white bones on the ground red. 3 figures appeared clearly. One was a man in green robes, the other was a middle-aged man and a beautiful woman. They were Sky Wolf Mo Tian Shao, Thunderhawk King, and Mie Ming King. At this moment, the 3 of them were all at the Nirvana realm. Although the people from the 3 great powers were all experts from large clans, they would not be a match for Heavenly Wolf Mo Tian Shao and the other 2, even if they were at the same realm. Moreover, there was a difference of several heavenly layers between them. The disciples of the 3 great factions did not even have the chance to self-detonate their primordial spirits. They were all killed by Sky Wolf Mo Tian Shao, Thunderhawk King, and Mie Ming King. It's him, Sky Wolf Mo Tian Shao. When he saw Sky Wolf Mo Tian Shao, Yi Wuming, Ghostchild, Tang Miling, Ji Jian, Mysterious Dragon King, and the others, he had seen them in the Supreme Tomb Square. That was a terrifying master. It was rumored that he was a terrifying existence that had sealed himself for thousands of years. He had even fought with Du Xiaofu before. He immediately became vigilant. After a while, a golden light surged out from Du Xiaofu's palm. Bang! The face of the old man in legalism twitched as despair surged out from his eyes. He seemed to want to say something, but his body exploded into a bloody mist. You really want me to die? Du Xiaofu muttered softly as a smile appeared on his face. However, anyone could see that this smile contained a terrifying killing intent. From the primordial spirit of the old man in legalism, Du Xiaofu used the soul-searching technique and found out that the three great factions, legalism, school of vertical and horizontal, and dragons, had sent many elders and experts into the divine domain. The true leaders were a few peak greater domain experts. Even before the supreme tomb had opened, Du Xiaofu didn't care about a few peak greater domain realm cultivators. Qin Wudi and the others were many times stronger than peak great domain realm cultivators. What Du Xiaofu cared about was that from the primordial spirit of the old man, he found out that the legalism, dragons, and school of vertical and horizontal seemed to have arranged some method to kill him completely. That method made the three great factions, legalism, school of vertical and horizontal, and dragons, swear that they were 100% sure of it. However, the old man in legalism was only an elder in legalism, so he did not have the qualifications to know what method the three great factions had arranged. The main forces of the three great factions were already in the Death Valley and were rushing over. They originally wanted to capture Elder Yi and the others alive to suppress him, so they would probably arrive soon. President, Brother Xiaofu. Seeing that Du Xiaofu had killed the old man in legalism, the mysterious Dragon King, Tao Yu, Ji Jiyan, and the others immediately gathered around with surprised expressions. They did not expect that Du Xiaofu would appear at such a critical moment. Is everyone all right? Du Xiaofu smiled as he swept his gaze across. When he saw that everyone was fine, he felt relieved. It's fine. It's good that you're fine. Yi Wuming stepped forward with a serious expression as he said to Du Xiaofu, I feel that experts from legalism, dragons, and school of vertical and horizontal should be rushing over. Elder Yi's guess is correct. There are indeed some people from those three factions rushing over, but it's not a big problem. Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. He felt that everyone was afraid of Heavenly Wolf Emo Tianxiao's identity, so he introduced Emo Tianxiao, the Thunderhawk King, and the Miameng King to everyone. Greetings, Country Guardian Envoy. After the Desolate Nation's disciples learned of Heavenly Wolf Emo Tianxiao's identity, they also knew of his strength and background, so they immediately bowed. As the Country Guardian Duke, Yi Wuming's status in the Desolate Nation was naturally not below Emo Tianxiao's. However, he still nodded with joy in his eyes. With an expert like Heavenly Wolf Emo Tianxiao joining the Desolate Nation, it could be said that the Desolate Nation was filled with fierce generals. Emo Tianxiao nodded slightly, as if he was not used to such a scene. The alluring woman stepped forward and stared at Du Xiaofu. Why aren't you introducing me? Are you treating me as if I don't exist? We don't seem to have much of a relationship. Moreover, I don't even know your name, so how am I supposed to introduce you? Du Xiaofu looked at the alluring woman. Ever since he came out from the divine soul devouring ant's nest, this woman had been following him. However, even now, he did not know much about her. With her cultivation and strength, Du Xiaofu judged that if she was at the Sovereign Tomb Square, she definitely had the strength to enter the Sovereign Tomb. However, she did not appear, so Du Xiaofu could not help but be wary of her. My name is Hongyue. The alluring woman looked at Du Xiaofu and said seriously, As for our relationship, it's not shallow. The old Ant Emperor gave the little Ant Emperor to the two of us, not just you. How would I know if you have any ill intentions towards the little Ant Emperor? I will naturally keep an eye on you. Then you can slowly keep an eye on me. Du Xiaofu did not mind. He lightly smiled and asked Yi Wuming, Old physician, how long has it been since the Sovereign Tomb opened? It's only been 2 months. Yi Wuming thought for a moment and said to Du Xiaofu in puzzlement, It's only been 2 months? Hearing that, Du Xiaofu was astonished. Emo Tianxiao, Thunderhawk King, and Miameng King were also astonished. Du Xiaofu, Emo Tianxiao, and the others felt that at least 10 to 20 years had passed since they were trapped in the light screen square. It was absolutely impossible for it to only be 2 months. Hearing that, they were all astonished. From the looks of it, there's a time contrast in there. It's similar to the desolate ancient space, but the time contrast is much higher. Du Xiaofu felt that it was strange, so he asked Yi Wuming. Now that he had confirmed it, the time in the light screen square was indeed different. They're finally here. Suddenly, he looked at the sky and slightly raised his brows. He said to Yi Wuming and the others, "Old physician, you guys just need to protect yourselves. Try your best to back off. There's no need for you guys to interfere." "Someone's here? It's been a long time since I've stretched my muscles." Mo Tianxiao, Thunderhawk King, and Mia Ming King stepped forward together. Their eyes were glowing, eager to give it a try. The three of them had been trapped for so long, and their cultivation had skyrocketed. They wanted to stretch their muscles and loosen their muscles. The 100 or so people they had just killed were too weak for them. They were on a completely different level. At this moment, they were eager to give it a try, and their auras surged. Whoosh whoosh. As Mo Tianxiao's voice fell, there were many sounds of wind breaking in the distance. Figures broke through the sky like rainbows and appeared in the nearby sky. Boom! Before those figures arrived, a vast aura had already swept down, distorting the void. Dazzling rays of light were like the arrival of the bright moon and the sun. Then, figures appeared and landed on the cliff and huge rocks in the deep valley. The rainbows retracted, revealing their true bodies. Their eyes shone brightly as they scanned Du Xiaofu and the others. Chapter 1745. There weren't many of them, only about 200 people in total. In the divine domain, the dragons, the school of vertical and horizontal, and the legalism couldn't bring out more people. The three forces had lost too many people in the divine domain this time, and they were all core experts. They had suffered heavy losses. Demon King, Du Xiaofu. When these people saw Du Xiaofu, their gazes and voices trembled. They were pleasantly surprised. The Demon King was indeed in the canyon. They were also afraid. The Demon King was too cruel. He had slaughtered countless experts from the three forces. Even Qin Wudi, Long San, Gongsun Wuji, and other heaven-defying experts had been killed by the Demon King and his son. Looking at these people, Du Xiaofu's expression was calm. Du Xiaofu quietly looked at the 200 people, especially the old man, the middle-aged man in battle clothes, and the old woman in front. Du Xiaofu had already learned from the soul of the old man in legalism that this was the legalism, the dragons, and the three leaders of the school of vertical and horizontal. They were all at the peak of the great domain realm, close to the realm level, and they had all come to kill him. Du Xiaofu was especially familiar with the old man leading the legalism. They had met many times in the legalism, but he didn't know his name. Of course, the names of these people weren't important to Du Xiaofu at all. There were many experts among these giants, so he didn't need to know their names. They're all experts. The experts of the three forces have gathered for Du Xiaofu. Yi Wuming, Tang Meiling, Gue Hua, and the others looked at the experts of the three forces, and their chests heaved up and down. They were nervous, and their hearts were in turmoil. They couldn't help but worry for Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu seems different. The auras of the people around him are also very powerful. The three leaders of the legalism, the school of vertical and horizontal, and the dragons looked at Du Xiaofu, Mo Tianxiao, Thunderhawk King, and Mia Ming King, and were inwardly moved. They felt the aura of Du Xiaofu, and the auras of Mo Tianxiao and the other strangers made them feel apprehensive. The auras of the three strangers were like dormant dragons and crouching tigers. Bastard. However, the blood mist and corpses around the canyon immediately, and many people from the three forces were furious. Du Xiaofu glanced at the people of the three forces and said calmly, "What? Does your heart ache? They're too weak. They can't even take a single blow." Du Xiaofu, you're digging your own grave. The leader of the dragons roared angrily. Killing intent surged, and dragon tattoos appeared in his eyes. "I'm just digging a grave for you." Du Xiaofu spoke. His figure stood tall and straight. His purple robe fluttered in the wind, and his black hair fluttered in the wind. His resolute and determined face appeared heroic under the invisible otherworldly aura he exuded at this moment. However, there was even more of an inexplicably domineering and disdainful aura. That feeling was akin to a man with an upright and plain-spoken face and an aura of righteousness. However, that aura just so happened to contain a trace of wickedness. As they stared at Du Xiaofu, the experts from the three great powers fell silent, their hearts filled with fear. Especially for the experts of the legalism. Perhaps they had never thought that such a day would come. Back then, the ant from the outside world that they did not take seriously had become a young sovereign in just over 20 years. He had shaken the world with the might of a great sovereign's nirvana. He was invincible, looking down on those of the same generation. He had never been defeated. He was the most powerful young person from the school of legalism, and even Qin Wudi had been killed by him. Who? His chest heaved, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. The old man of the legalism took a deep breath, looked at Du Xiaofu, and said coldly, "Little bastard, no matter how strong you are, it's still not enough. Today, you're dead." Hearing the words of the old man of the legalism, Du Xiaofu had mixed feelings, but he had already calmed down. Looking at the people of the legalism, he didn't say anything, but his gaze was incomparably cold. Listening to the conversation between Du Xiaofu and the people of the legalism, Mo Tianxiao, Thunderhawk King, Ming King, and the others could feel that there were many waves in this. They didn't know what Du Xiaofu had done to provoke the joint attack of the three forces, and they wanted to kill him. However, Mo Tianxiao more or less knew that Du Xiaofu had killed Qin Wudi, Long San, and the others in the Sovereign Tomb Square. That was enough to make the three forces fight to the death. "Let's deal with them together. Kill them," Mo Tianxiao said. He was also stronger than the dragons and the other two forces, but he had already expected that he would agree to join the desolate country for 100 years. At this moment, sensing the aura of the people of the three forces, he didn't put them in his eyes. The peak of the great domain realm was just close to the realm level. Why would Mo Tianxiao care about them at this moment? Even if a peak domain realm expert came, Mo Tianxiao wouldn't spare them a glance and could directly kill them. Mo Tianxiao had also defeated several illusory opponents in the mysterious light screen. He could be considered invincible among the Nirvana realm experts. Why would he care about these peak great domain realm experts at this moment? Of course, kill them. Du Xiaofu nodded. He was no longer bothered by the legalism. His voice was calm, and his entire body was covered with golden light. The aura emitted from him made people have an impulse to worship him. This was the change after comprehending the 8 trigrams profound. The old man of the legalism, the middle-aged man in the dragon's battle suit, and the old lady of the school of vertical and horizontal looked at Du Xiaofu, Mo Tianxiao, Thunderhawk King, and Ming King. The 4 figures standing in front of them gave them an inexplicable sense of unease. However, they weren't weaklings. They were the elders of the legalism, school of vertical and horizontal and dragons. They had extraordinary statuses, so they immediately suppressed the uneasiness in their hearts. "Don't let Du Xiaofu escape again. He must be killed today." The middle-aged man in the dragon's battle suit shouted in a deep voice. His voice was like a dragon's roar, and his aura was astonishing. The sound waves exploded in the deep valley, causing Yi Wuming, Tang Miling, and the others to tremble. Boom! Suddenly, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the deep valley. Thunder and lightning wreaked havoc, and the void trembled. At this moment, Thunderhawk King stepped out of the void. Electric arcs rippled around him, and a terrifying aura swept across the void like thunder. His gaze was sharp and intimidating. "Bastard, you think you can touch us with just a few pieces of trash? Your Grandpa Eagle King is going to die from laughter." Thunderhawk King laughed out in anger. Ever since he failed to break through 1,000 years ago, he had been joining forces with Ming to guard against the Nightmare Dragon King. But now that Thunderhawk King had recovered from his injuries and broken through, he was looked down upon by these people the moment he came out. It was as though they wanted to kill him. He was the king of this space, the ruler of all beasts. How could he not be enraged? However, Thunderhawk King was amused as well. To think that a few greater domain state beings would dare to clamor in front of him. Even before he had broken through to the nirvana state, he wouldn't have cared about these people, let alone now. So, it's the remnant beasts of the ancient times. Don't you dare get cocky. The middle-aged man in the dragon's battle suit could sense the aura of Thunderhawk King. Dragon tattoos surged out of his eyes as he released his might, wanting to suppress Thunderhawk King. That was because the middle-aged man in the dragon's battle suit could not sense the true cultivation state and strength of Thunderhawk King. Thunderhawk King was somewhat aggrieved. He was a supreme nirvana state being and was currently at the nirvana state. But to think that this ignorant dragon would dare to look down on him. Come, play with your grandpa Thunderhawk King. The Thunderhawk King started laughing as lightning started to descend from the surrounding space, and it was as if a thunderstorm had descended from the surrounding valleys. A boundless aura of destruction spread out in the sky, and those with slightly lower strength had already felt their minds tremble and their legs go soft. So strong. The middle-aged man in the dragon's battle suit finally had a change in expression as he sensed the powerful aura of Thunderhawk King. Don't talk too much. Killing that little bastard is the most important thing. The old lady from the house of Zhongheng spoke as she stared at Du Xiaofu with killing intent. Their joint target was Du Xiaofu, and they did not want the dragons to be distracted. Do you want to come at me together? Du Xiaofu took a step forward with a calm expression. His body fluctuated as mysterious runes lingered around him. There seemed to be a faint shadow of a golden-winged rock flapping its wings in the void behind him. It was incomparably tyrannical with a torrential aura, and a great pressure of the supreme beast race spread out. Little bastard, I shouldn't have let you live back then. The old man from the legalism school spoke in a deep voice. Now, the entire legalism school was filled with regret. If they had completely annihilated that father and son back then the legalism school wouldn't have suffered heavy losses time and time again. Those losses were already something the legalism school was unable to bear. Haha, Du Xiaofu laughed. He had no choice but to laugh. Then his laughter stopped abruptly as he looked at the old man from the legalism school and said, "What's legalism school? Do you think you're the heavens, able to make people live and die? My life is my own. Even if the heavens want my life, what can they do to me if I don't give it to them? My life is in my own hands and not in the hands of the heavens, let alone your legalism school." As soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu's pupils were suffused with a golden light, and on his indifferent face, his aura surged and transformed into a pressure that caused the void to tremble. Chapter 1746. Translator. Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio. Pressure swept out from Du Xiaofu's body like a raging tide. He did not take the initiative to attack, but the invisible pressure swept out, causing some of the weaker members of the three great forces to immediately scream. Their eyes trembled, their faces turned pale, and their eyes were filled with fear. Bastard! The legalism old man roared furiously and swept out his sleeve. Light surged and a magnificent and desolate aura surged out. That aura was extremely similar to the mysterious spiritual root in Du Xiaofu's mind, and it helped the people in the surroundings recover. Chi! But at this moment, the middle-aged man in the dragon's battle clothes made his move and his figure shot out like lightning. At the same time, his dragon might erupted, and light shone brightly. At the instant his figure swooped down slightly, he activated his true form, and a 10,000 feet long dragon appeared in the air. In the blink of an eye, it appeared ferocious. Ayo! The dragon's roar reverberated, and the surrounding rocks exploded. The dragon's scales glowed, and its bloody mouth was already swallowing Du Xiaofu. It was as fast as lightning and as powerful as thunder. The middle-aged man in the dragon's battle clothes was launching a sneak attack. His grand domain realm was extremely close to the domain realm, and this gave him some confidence that he could protect himself even if he missed. Oomph! The Thunderhawk King was originally staring at the middle-aged man from the Dragon Clan. He snorted coldly from his throat and waved his hand. Lightning surged and rapidly spread out in the air. He grabbed at the huge dragon with a claw that was accompanied by an enormous pressure. But before the Thunderhawk King, wind and thunder resounded and a sharp aura surged into the sky. A blade light broke through the air and soared into the sky. At this moment, a huge green saber appeared in Du Xiaofu's palm, emitting a terrifying light. With a slash, it was like a rainbow piercing through the sun. The surrounding void was directly sliced apart, revealing a pitch-black spatial crack that extended forward. Everything happened in the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint. Pooh! The giant dragon started from its ferocious mouth and extended all the way to its giant tail. It was split into two halves from the middle. Its corpse, accompanied by dragon blood, fell into the deep valley, shattering many rocks and causing rumbling sounds to reverberate. The middle-aged man in the dragon's battle clothes only knew that he was wrong when he died. He did not have the ability to protect himself at all in the hands of Du Xiaofu, but it was too late for regrets. This sudden turn of events immediately stunned everyone from the three great forces. Even Yi Wuming, Tang Miling, Ghost Child, and the rest were sucking in a cold breath. The middle-aged man in the dragon's battle clothes was Grand Domain Realm was a powerful expert, but he was killed by Du Xiaofu with a single slash. Dragons. The Legalism, Battle Clothes, and the Old Sect School. The Legalism School, the School Clan Battle School. The School, and the Old School. The strength of the leader of the dragon's battle clothes was definitely not inferior to the two of them. However, the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, was so powerful and terrifying that he killed the middle-aged man with a single slash. The surroundings suddenly became strangely quiet as everyone trembled. This was especially true for the people from the School of Legalism, the Dragon Clan, and the School of Vertical and Horizontal. They all felt a chill run down their spines. Du Xiaofu was just too terrifying. He's getting stronger and stronger. This was the thought in the minds of the Legalism School's sect. The Demon King, Du Xiaofu, was even more powerful than when they first met him in the Divine Domain. The Thunderhawk King retreated. With Du Xiaofu taking action, he could not be of any help. He was a little depressed that he was not allowed to exercise his muscles and bones. Mo Tianxiao, Mie Mengqing, and the charming woman who called herself Hongyue were not surprised by this outcome. As expected, he's as ferocious as the legends say. Hongyue seemed to have heard of the Demon King, Du Xiaofu's name before. She slightly pouted, and her red lips were tender and alluring. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu was staring at the dragon corpse. Du Xiaofu had killed the huge dragon before the Thunderhawk King because he knew from the primordial spirit of the old man from the Legalism School that the Legalism School, the Dragon School, and the School of Vertical and Horizontal had prepared a method to kill him this time. Therefore, he had to be on guard. Under Du Xiaofu's gaze, a strange light suddenly spread out from the pool of dragon blood within the shattered dragon corpse. Boom! Boom! In that instant, the surrounding space trembled for no reason. From within the light, a figure wrapped in a dazzling radiance that was like the sun appeared. The surrounding light flickered, and it was an old man with an aged appearance. Along with the appearance of this figure, a terrifying pressure spread out. It was as if a peerless dragon was born, bringing with it an unparalleled dragon's might. Oh! In the depths of the void, a dragon's roar resounded. The terrifying pressure was released, causing Yi Wuming, Tang Miling, Ghost Child, and the mysterious Wyrm King to tremble. They could only look up. At this moment, even the light in the surrounding space was devoured by quite a bit. The wind and clouds surged high up in the sky as the roar of a dragon resounded. Along with the appearance of this old man, the space froze. The old man's eyes were like torches, and his figure was majestic. His entire body was suffused with the aura of a true dragon. He floated in the air, and the faint shadow of a dragon could be seen hovering in the air. Dazzling runes descended like a rain of light, as if it was a miracle. Along with the appearance of this old figure, the disciples of the Dragon School who were intimidated and terrified immediately revealed expressions of joy, as if they had seen hope. Greetings, Ancestor Long Tongue. The disciples of the Dragon School bowed respectfully, their dragon blood boiling. They were very surprised, as they never thought that Ancestor Long Tongue would actually appear here. When they felt the terrifying dragon's might, Mo Tianxiao, Thunderhawk King, King Mie Ming, and Hongyue's expressions changed. This was a truly terrifying expert, a primordial spirit doppelganger. Du Xiaofu's eyes narrowed slightly, and his gaze fell on the old figure of the dragon school that had suddenly appeared. Du Xiaofu was no stranger to primordial spirit doppelganger. Back when Du Xiaofu had yet to step into the domain realm, the experts of the devil religion and Dongli Qingqing's master had sent out their doppelganger. To put it more clearly, a primordial spirit doppelganger was a wisp of the primordial spirit's power, and not the primordial spirit itself. This kind of doppelganger was only condensed from a wisp of the primordial spirit's power. Once it appeared, it wouldn't last for long. However, being able to summon a true primordial spirit doppelganger was also the symbol of a domain realm expert. It was a technique that only a domain realm expert could possess. However, no one would casually use a primordial spirit doppelganger, as it was condensed from a large portion of a person's primordial spirit. Once the primordial spirit doppelganger was injured, the original primordial spirit would also be severely injured. Once the primordial spirit doppelganger was destroyed, it would be equivalent to the most serious injury. In the future, it would be impossible for one's cultivation to increase. It would be considered good if it didn't regress. To a certain extent, the importance of a primordial spirit doppelganger was extraordinary. As for the primordial spirit doppelganger, it was even more important than the physical body. It was the core of a living being's existence, the foundation of one's life. If a martial domain realm expert condensed a primordial spirit doppelganger, his strength would be enough to kill a peak martial honorable. At this moment, Du Xiaofu looked at the figure that was called Ancestor Long Tongue, as if it was real. However, under Du Xiaofu's prying, it was naturally not difficult to see that it was slightly illusory, but its aura was very powerful, far exceeding the original peak of the great domain realm in the deity domain. When Long Tang's primordial spirit doppelganger appeared, the eyes of the old man from the legalism school and the old woman from the school of vertical and horizontal flickered. At the same time, they formed hand seals, and two bright rays of light shot out from between their eyebrows. Rumble. When the two rays of light shot out, the void trembled, and a vast fluctuation swept through the entire world. Runes covered the sky, shining in all directions, as if a god was descending. Under that terrifying aura, Wuming, Ghost Child, and the others raised their heads, and their hearts trembled for no reason. In an instant, two figures appeared in the sky, wrapped in bright runes, as if the sun was shining in the sky. The two figures and Long Tongue's primordial spirit doppelganger stood together, their eyes shining brightly. Greetings, Ancestor. When the two old men appeared, the experts from the legalism school and the school of vertical and horizontal, except for the leading old man and the old woman, all trembled in surprise. The experts from the three forces were overjoyed at this moment. They only knew that their families had arranged a method to kill Du Xiaofu, but they did not know what kind of arrangement it was. At this moment, they knew that the ancestor had personally entered the deity domain. This time, Du Xiaofu was definitely going to die. Li Chunfa. When the two old men from the legalism school and the school of vertical and horizontal shot out together, Du Xiaofu's eyes narrowed in confusion. Du Xiaofu did not recognize the old man from the school of vertical and horizontal, but the old man from the legalism school had been reduced to ashes. Du Xiaofu recognized him as well. He was one of the ancestors from the legalism school, Li Chunfa. They're both primordial spirit doppelganger as well. Du Xiaofu discovered that Li Chunfa and the ancestor from the school of vertical and horizontal were just like the dragon's Long Tang. They were all primordial spirit doppelganger. Li Chunfa's figure appeared. His figure was slightly illusory, and only true experts could recognize him. He wore long robes, and his face was clean and fair. His gaze was vast and boundless like the ocean, as if it contained a world of its own. He stared fixedly at Du Xiaofu as cold-killing intent surged. How did the primordial spirit doppelganger of an overlord realm expert enter? Mo Tian Shao stepped forward and sent a voice transmission to Du Xiaofu. He stared at the three primordial spirit doppelganger with a fierce expression, but it could not escape his detection. However, Mo Tian Shao was curious as to how these primordial spirit doppelganger had entered. The deity domain's restrictions prevented those above the domain realm from entering. Even primordial spirit doppelganger could not enter. Someone had tried before, but the primordial spirit doppelganger had been destroyed in the end. Something happened in the deity domain. Perhaps that's the reason why they entered this place. Du Xiaofu's eyes glowed as he stared at the three people. Back then, he had not been able to determine Li Chunfa's cultivation base, but now, he could sense that the auras of Li Chunfa's three primordial spirit doppelganger had surpassed the domain realm. They were definitely at the Overlord realm. The primordial spirit doppelganger of a Overlord realm expert was comparable to a peak domain realm expert. If it was a peak domain realm expert, a primordial spirit doppelganger would be comparable to an ordinary Overlord realm expert. Chapter 1747. As the current master of the divine domain, Du Xiaofu could sense that something had changed in the divine domain as well. Although the three clones had entered the divine domain and were not killed, they were still affected by the divine domain. The strength of Li Chunfa and the other two clones had probably been suppressed to a certain extent. I've come into contact with domain realm and overlord realm cultivators in the past. These three clones seem to have been suppressed. Mo Tianxiao's voice landed in Du Xiaofu's ears once more. He also sensed that there was something wrong with the three clones' auras. He had come into contact with Overlord Realm and Domain Realm cultivators in the past. Their auras were definitely stronger than these three clones. We'll know if they've been suppressed once we give it a try. Du Xiaofu replied indifferently. He was not very nervous. No matter how bad the situation was, he still had 3 scorching thunder bombs on him. A single scorching thunder bomb was enough to make peak Overlord Realm cultivators struggle to defend themselves. It was enough to deal with the 3 clones. However, Du Xiaofu really could not bear to use a treasure like the blazing lightning bullet to deal with the 3 essence soul avatars. Little bastard. How dare you kill the descendants of dragons? Long Ting appeared. He glanced at the 2 halves of the dragon corpse on the ground and roared. He glared furiously at Du Xiaofu as dragon silhouettes rippled around him. He was denouncing Du Xiaofu with a peerlessly domineering aura. If I kill too many dragons, I'll kill every single one of them if they come to provoke me. Du Xiaofu stared coldly at Long Tongue. He was no longer as fearless as he was in the past. Little bastard, you'll only be a disaster if you're left alive. You're dead for sure today. You won't be able to escape even if you grow wings. No one will come to save you again. Li Chunfa glared angrily at Du Xiaofu. Dazzling light fluctuated from his body as his killing intense soared. He didn't say anything at all. His sharp and cold aura crushed down. This is the space of the divine domain. Who do you think you are, Li Chunfa? You're just a Yuan divinity avatar. Even if your true body were here, I would still kill you today. Du Xiaofu responded indifferently. His purple robe and black hair fluttered in the wind, but the coldness in his eyes increased. For some reason, the surrounding space became cold, and it made one's spirit tremble. So it's just an essence soul avatar. Its aura is actually so powerful. When they heard this, Ewuming, Ghost Child, the Dark Wyrm King, and the others finally realized that it was actually only 3 soul core clones. Yet they were already so formidable and possessed such terrifying auras. So if their main bodies were to come here, then exactly how terrifying would their main bodies be? Long Ting, Gongsun Hua, and Li Chunfa were inwardly shocked. Du Xiaofu could tell at a glance that they were only primordial soul avatars. Little bastard, don't overestimate yourself. Li Chunfa's teeth emitted a chill. Being belittled by a junior like this, his anger was burning. But at this moment, Li Chunfa could also feel that in such a short time, the feeling that Du Xiaofu gave him was completely different from when he was in legalism. It was not only in terms of cultivation, but there was also a hidden majesty and power. It was like a dragon hibernating in the abyss, a tiger crouching in the forest, and a phoenix perching in the trees. Long Ting and Gongsun Hua could also feel this aura. They were even secretly spying on Du Xiaofu, but they were not in a hurry to act. At their level of cultivation, they were definitely not reckless people. Otherwise, they would not have achieved their current status and achievements. At this moment, Du Xiaofu stood quietly as golden light enveloped him. Within his eyes, the golden light was suffused with mysterious runes. However, The formless aura that radiated from him was so powerful that ordinary people could not sense it. That aura was like a dormant volcano or a sleeping beast. Once it erupted, it would immediately rush to the heavens and shatter the 9 heavens. This little bastard seems to be getting stronger and stronger. According to our agreement, kill him quickly. Don't let him live. Long Tongue transmitted. This time, the 3 of them had entered the divine dominion with the help of a treasure from the dragons. They had also paid a huge price. They only had one goal, and that was to kill Du Xiaofu in the divine dominion. There could not be any more accidents. I want to kill this little bastard personally. You guys deal with the others. Li Chunfa transmitted. He wanted to kill Du Xiaofu personally. Let's kill them together. We can't let any accidents happen. Long Ting and Gong Sun were transmitted at almost the same time. They knew that Du Xiaofu had many treasures on him. If Du Xiaofu was killed by Li Chunfa, it would be hard to say who would own those treasures. How could Li Chunfa not know what Long Ting and Gong Sun Hua were thinking? He cursed in his heart, but also transmitted, "All right, we can kill them together. Little bastard, it's time for everything to end today. You'll pay for what you've done," Gong Sunhua said. His figure moved forward slightly, and a scorching aura emanated from his Yuan spirit clone. At the same time, Li Chunfa and Long Tongue's faint auras had already enveloped the void in an arc, surrounding Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu, that little bastard, is dead for sure. When the disciples of the school of legalism, the dragons, and the school of vertical and horizontal saw this, their ancestors' Yuan spirit clones made a move and immediately retreated. At this moment, it was as if they could already see the tragic end of the insufferably arrogant Du Xiaofu. He was destined to die at the hands of their ancestors today. Feeling the invisible pressure, Mo Tian Xiao, Thunderhawk King, and Mie Ming King did not retreat. Instead, they moved closer to Du Xiaofu. "Are you from the school of vertical and horizontal? Report to me," Du Xiaofu said to Gong Sunhua. Feeling the fluctuations of the auras from the 3 of them, his gaze turned cold. His black hair danced violently behind him, and the void trembled for no reason. "Remember, Gong Sunhua of the school of vertical and horizontal, your life is destined to be lost at my hands," Gong Sunhua said. The moment he finished speaking, a terrifying scorching aura erupted at the same time, and his figure disappeared on the spot. Boom! At this moment, the void in the valley trembled. In a flash, a scorching flame hovered in the void, burning fiercely. The wind and clouds in the void surged. Whoosh! From the billowing flames, a giant void palm imprint stretched out, wrapped in flames as hot as magma. The heat was enough to destroy everything. The surrounding abyss was cracking, and the deep valleys were exploding. The palm imprint pressed down on Du Xiaofu. The terrifying aura was enough to destroy everything. This was the attack of Gong Sun Hua's Yuan spirit clone, accompanied by a Yuan spirit attack. The Yuan spirit clone of a powerhouse of this level carried with it immense Yuan spirit power. Roar! A dragon's roar filled the sky, and a divine elephant trumpeted. The domineering golden light illuminated everything, and the void trembled. Du Xiaofu moved. His purple robe fluttered, and with a shake of his arm, he punched out with a domineering aura, wrapped in golden light, directly resisting the power of the palm. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's half-step nirvana cultivation was not held back. A terrifying aura swept out from his tall body like a hurricane. His purple robe fluttered in the wind, and cracks spread out from his feet, densely covering the surrounding void. Boom! This punch shattered the void, and the sky was overturned. The pitch-black cracks in the void spread out, accompanied by dazzling runes. Rumble! The terrifying energy swept out, directly crushing the distant abyss. The cracks climbed up the walls, and huge rocks exploded. With a rumble, the earth shook, and the mountains collapsed. This terrifying collision made Yi Wuming, Tang Miling, and the others' hair stand on end. Space broke, and the flames were shattered. Gong Sun Hua's primordial spirit avatar staggered back a few steps. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's body only swayed slightly. He licked his lips, which were slightly dry from the fiery destructive aura, and muttered softly, it's really suppressed. At most, it's at the edge of the domain realm. When this happened, Mo Tianxiao, Thunder Eagle King, and Mia Ming King all smiled coldly and relaxed. President's strength seems to have increased greatly again. The mysterious Wyrm King's fierce eyes were filled with shock, and he trembled. It's not a small increase. Wu Ming, who had been frowning nervously, and whose heart had been in his throat, was now shocked. These were the primordial spirit avatars of the dragons, school of vertical and horizontal, in the legalism sect. They were terrifyingly powerful, but they could not even gain the upper hand in front of Du Xiaofu. Compared to Li Chunfa, Long Tang, and Gong Sunhua, who had been knocked back, all of them were shocked. Gong Sunhua had not gained the upper hand in one move, and had instead fallen into a disadvantage. This made them tremble with shock. Chapter 1748. At this moment, Du Xiaofu stood upright. Golden Xian-Qi was released around him, forming a golden Xian-Qi storm. It was like a hurricane in the sky. Around the Xian-Qi hurricane, there seemed to be the faint image of a golden-winged rock flapping its wings in the sky. The domineering and fierce pressure that emanated from it caused everyone to be stunned. At this moment, this terrifying commotion was completely caused by the vigorous Xian-Qi in Du Xiaofu's body. It was so vast and majestic that it caused the surrounding space to distort. Crack, crack. The entire space seemed like it would be crushed at any moment. For no reason, the space above the deep valley trembled. On the ground of the deep valley, arm-sized cracks continuously spread out. Amidst this terrifying commotion, Du Xiaofu was like a boulder. His eyes opened and closed, shooting out golden light. At this moment, Du Xiaofu did not hold back the aura of a half-step rebirth nirvana stage. Under the immeasurable nirvana stage, Du Xiaofu's various profundities and techniques had perfectly fused together. The vastness of the star's profundities, the domineering strength of the golden-winged rock clan, the terrifying heat of the purple flame demonic phoenix, the murderous lightning's profundities, and the profundities of the grass of immortality and the dark seeker grass. Under the immeasurable nirvana stage, all of these perfectly fused together naturally. It also affected Du Xiaofu's Xian-Qi imperceptibly, causing the quality of his Xian-Qi to rise to a new level. Just by relying on the vigorous Xian-Qi in his body, Du Xiaofu could defeat anyone in the same cultivation level as him. It was not impossible for him to fight opponents above his level. Li Chunfa, Gong Sunhua, and Long Tang stared closely at Du Xiaofu. At this moment, Du Xiaofu did not hold back his half-step rebirth nirvana stage aura. With their cultivation and eyesight, they could naturally sense it. Half-step rebirth. Finally, Li Chunfa's voice rang out as his Yuan spirit body trembled. The light in his eyes trembled, as if he had been struck by lightning. Half-step reincarnation. This level of cultivation was only half a step away from reincarnation. It was equivalent to the half-step domain realm of the martial domain realm. However, strictly speaking, everyone clearly knew that although a nirvana stage sovereign was at the same level as the martial domain stage, there was a world of difference in terms of strength, let alone a sovereign amongst sovereigns like Du Xiaofu. How did he break through so quickly? Didn't this little bastard not enter the Supreme Being tomb? Gong Sunhua was trembling. The speed at which Du Xiaofu was breaking through was too fast. When they were fighting Qin Wudi and Long San in the Supreme Tomb, they had seen that Du Xiaofu was only at the Nirvana True Self level. But now, in a short period of 2 months, Du Xiaofu had not only broken through to the Nirvana stage, but also reached the half-step rebirth stage. This was too terrifying. Li Chunfa, Long Tang, and Gong Sunhua looked at each other, their eyes trembling. At this moment, they were afraid of the same thing. Du Xiaofu's breakthrough speed was too terrifying. He was a monster among monsters. If he continued to break through at this rate, probably no one from the school of legalism, the Dragon Clan, and the school of vertical and horizontal would be able to keep him in check before long. Kill. Almost at the same time, cold killing intent surged from their eyes. The killing intent boiled in their hearts as the three of them took a step forward, crossing the void. The three of them had decided that they would kill Du Xiaofu today, no matter what. Seeing Du Xiaofu's cultivation and breakthrough speed, Li Chunfa and the other two felt fear and lingering fear. In the past, Li Chunfa, Long Teng, and Gong Sunhua had sworn to kill Du Xiaofu because of Qin Wudi, Gong Sun Wuji, and Long San. That was because they felt that Du Xiaofu's talent was terrifying, and they were afraid that he would grow even more terrifying in the future. Secondly, there were too many factions around Du Xiaofu. He had just started to grow, and there would be endless trouble in the future. But now, Li Chunfa and the other two's killing intent came from Du Xiaofu himself. Du Xiaofu's terrifying breakthrough speed, monstrous talent, and ferocious personality made Li Chunfa and the other two feel fear and dread in their hearts. The three of them want to team up. The older they get, the more shameless they get. Sensing that Li Chunfa and the other two were about to team up, Yi Wuming, the mysterious Dragon King, Ji Jiyin, and Gue Hua cursed inwardly. But they could only curse. With their cultivation and strength, they didn't even have the right to be affected. 3 against 1. Those guys are really shameless. Hong Yue, who had been watching the show from the side, scolded with disdain on her beautiful face. However, she had no intention of interfering. Mo Tianxiao, Thunderhawk King, and Mie Ming moved. Their auras surged. They wanted to help Du Xiaofu. Then these 3 old men are mine. You guys deal with the rest. Du Xiaofu waved his sleeve and said. He didn't hide it and had no intention of letting Mo Tianxiao and the other 2 interfere. The cultivation of Li Chunfa and the others' clones were suppressed to the domain realm. To Du Xiaofu, they were nothing. Little bastard, do you really think you can deal with us? Seeing that Du Xiaofu didn't hide the fact that he didn't care about the 3 of them, Li Chunfa became ferocious. At this moment, although the 3 of them were in the divine domain, their clones' cultivation was still suppressed. However, they weren't suppressed to the initial stage of the martial domain realm, but to the domain realm. With the 3 of them working together, Li Chunfa didn't believe that they couldn't kill Du Xiaofu. Half-step Nirvana realm was not the true Nirvana realm. Even if Du Xiaofu had truly stepped into the Nirvana realm, Li Chunfa was confident that he could kill Du Xiaofu with the 3 of them working together. After all, they were the ancestors of the 3 great clans. How could a junior compare to them? I'll kill your clones today. After this emperor leaves, I'll kill your main bodies. Du Xiaofu stretched out his hand and pointed his index finger at Li Chunfa, Long Teng, and Gong Sunhua. He was incomparably domineering and arrogant. In thousands of years, you're the first person who dares to be so arrogant in front of this old man. Then die. Long Teng spoke. As his voice fell, his face was terrifyingly cold, and dragon shadows flashed around him. Roar! In that instant, a dragon's roar resounded through the void. The atmosphere immediately tensed. Long Teng's chilling killing intent swept through the air, his eyes filled with dragon tattoos. Almost at the same time, Gong Sunhua's aura rose again. Raging flames filled the sky, crushing the void. Boom! Boom! Li Chunfa also moved. His clone also shone brightly. Runes spread across the sky, and a world seemed to appear behind him. The sun, the moon, and the stars rotated, and an ancient aura filled the air. Vast and mighty pressure surged. All of a sudden, the 3 patriarch clones moved at the same time. 3 waves of icy killing intent rose to the peak. The 3 ancestor clones were now working together to kill Du Xiaofu. The 3 of them were working together for a junior. In this world, Du Xiaofu was probably the only person who could make Li Chunfa and the other 2 shamelessly work together to deal with him. As the 3 of them unleashed their auras, 3 terrifying auras filled the sky, crushing the chaotic abyss in all directions. Chi, in the blink of an eye, a flaming fingerprint, a powerful palm print, and an illusory dragon claw shot out like arrows in the void. The 3 attacks pierced through space. Dazzling runes adhered to them, forming a semicircle that shot fiercely towards Du Xiaofu. The 3 terrifying auras distorted the void. In a flash, they had already appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. Faced with the 3 terrifying attacks at the same time, Du Xiaofu's expression did not change. Under the trembling gazes of Yi Wuming and the others below, he formed a hand seal, and the space in front of him suddenly distorted. Chi, his figure was like a ghost, drifting like a god, changing unpredictably. Du Xiaofu's figure escaped from the three attacks like a loach in mud. Oomph! But at the same time, three cold snorts were heard. Li Qinfa and the others were so powerful that their attacks would not let Du Xiaofu escape so easily. Li Qinfa and the other two doppelgangers appeared, and their attacks changed. Like shadows, they continued to envelop Du Xiaofu, like maggots in a tarsal bone. The three attacks seemed simple, but they contained great power. The stronger the cultivation, the more terrifying they would be. Du Xiaofu did not panic. The three attacks followed closely, and the space around him was already distorted. Rumble. Everything happened very quickly. The three attacks exploded in the void. Terrifying energy surged. The runes shone brightly, but they contained the power of destruction. A large area of the void was shattered into a pitch-black vacuum. It was so deep that it made one's heart tremble with fear. Li Chunfa, Gong Sunhua, and Long Teng appeared in the void, staring at the place where the three attacks had just struck. Suddenly, the three of them seemed to have noticed at the same time, and immediately looked up. Chi, the void rippled, and golden light filled the air. A figure quietly appeared. It was Du Xiaofu, who had just disappeared. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu was unscathed. His golden eyes looked at Li Chunfa, Long Teng, and Gong Sunhua, and a cold smile appeared on his lips. He said softly, "Is this all you've got? Then it's my turn." Chapter 1749. When Du Xiaofu finished speaking, the smile on his face became even wider. Rumble. It was also at this instant that a strand of dazzling golden profound energy surged out from within Du Xiaofu's body like a golden tide and a myriad of galloping beasts. It carried the rumbling of wind and thunder as it swept out towards the surroundings like tidewater. At this moment, the entire abyss was trembling. The golden light penetrated the void without end. In just a moment, a terrifying, formless aura swept across the void. In the dazzling golden light, purple gold lightning began to ripple in Du Xiaofu's eyes. His black hair danced in the wind. His entire body was golden, and the shadow of the purple gold thunder rock appeared behind him. The aura was terrifying, like that of a god. This is not good. Retreat. Feeling this strange aura, Li Chunfa, Gong Sunhua, and Long Teng's expressions changed. They felt uneasy and wanted to retreat immediately. But it seemed that it was too late. "Didn't you want to kill me? Are you retreating now?" Du Xiaofu said, still smiling. Suddenly, a dazzling light spread out from his body. It was as if he was emitting divine light. Ancient runes rippled out and formed an 8 trigrams pattern. Whoosh! The light was like a divine chain. It hung in the air and enveloped Du Xiaofu. Then, it suddenly appeared in the void. The 8 trigrams pattern appeared in the air and enveloped the primordial spirits of Li Chunfa, Long Teng, and Gong Sunhua. Even the 200 people from the school of legalism, the school of vertical and horizontal, and the dragons, who had retreated not too far away, were suddenly enveloped in shock. The void distorted, and a vast aura descended. A terrifying pressure caused the primordial spirits of the 3 families to tremble. The opening of the Divine Dominion in the Chunhuang mainland was a grand occasion for the world. The experts of the various factions and families had been lingering here for a long time. But for some of the top experts of the older generation, this opening of the Divine Dominion was very different from the previous one. The appearance of the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, and the enmity between him and the legalism had caused the past events of the school of vertical and horizontal and the legalism. Coupled with the participation of the dragons, the top young representatives of the 3 families were all wiped out. The changes in the Divine Dominion seemed to be related to the last opening. Some experts were no longer suppressed, but those whose cultivation had surpassed the boundary realm was still unable to enter. Many ancient inheritances and relics had appeared in the divine domain. Many people had their eyes on them, and they were fiercely fighting for them both openly and secretly. I wonder how it is. It has been a long time since we last heard any news of Du Xiaofu. Recently, there have been a lot of movements in the divine domain. The Supreme Tomb should be opening again soon. When that time comes, the divine domain will completely disappear. I wonder who found the greatest fortunate encounter in the supreme tomb. Bingamo, Old Man Tian Shou, Old Monster Xing Hun, and the other experts discussed. Something doesn't seem right. In the great golden-winged rocks, the old lady looked at Li Chunfa, Qin Tianshi, Long Tang, and the others. Li Chunfa, Long Tang, and the others had been quiet for a long time. This made the old lady a little suspicious and uneasy. The experts from the other forces were entrenched in their respective areas, occupying the densely packed mountain peaks in the surroundings. They were all waiting for their disciples to come out of the divine dominion. They were looking forward to the amazing opportunities that would strengthen their sects and revitalize their families. At this moment, Long Tang, Gong Sunhua, and Li Chunfa were together with Qin Tianshi and the others. They were all sitting on a mountain peak that towered into the clouds. Their primordial spirit avatars were connected to their real bodies in the divine dominion. Everything that happened was clear to their real bodies. However, at this moment, the sneers on Li Chunfa's and the other two's faces suddenly turned serious. Boom! Just as the Chunhuang mainland was in a rare moment of peace, there was suddenly a slight tremor. All of a sudden, ancient runes appeared in the void. Whoosh! Then, under the astonished gazes of countless people on the Chunhuang mainland, the void above the divine dominion was cleansed by the ancient runes. It was like a mirage. At this moment, many people who were sitting cross-legged on the Chunhuang mainland suddenly stood up and looked up at the void above. In an instant, a strange 8 trigrams pattern appeared in the void above the divine dominion. A terrifying aura descended and covered the entire Chunhuang mainland. This aura was like the sea. It could carry everything. When the waves were calm, it was vast and could nourish all things. But if there was a violent storm, it would create terrifying waves that would destroy everything. The 8 trigrams pattern, Qian, Kurin, Zhan, Sun, Kan, Li, Jin, and Dui. The 8 directions were connected to each other, forming 64 small directions. Finally, they formed a dazzling divine ring. Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in the middle. His black hair was shining behind his head. He was like a holy spirit in the sky, emitting a terrifying aura. His aura was sharper than a sky pride's and gentler than a prime's. But compared to a sky pride's and a prime's, his aura was even more powerful. It's the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. He's appeared again. And there are people from the legalism, dragons, and school of vertical and horizontal. At this moment, the entire Chunhuang mainland was in an uproar. The Demon King, Du Xiaofu, who had not been seen for a long time, appeared again. There were hundreds of experts from the legalism, dragons, and school of vertical and horizontal. Oh my god, isn't that Li Qinfa from the legalism, Long Tang from the dragons, and Gong Sunhua from the school of vertical and horizontal? The most shocking thing was that Long Tang of the dragon clan, Li Qinfa of the school of legalism, and Gong Sunhua of the school of vertical and horizontal, the 3 ancestors, all appeared in the divine dominion. And at this moment, Li Chunfa, Gong Sunhua, and Long Tang were clearly on the mountain peak. Many people were shocked. That's not their real bodies. That's a primordial spirit avatar of Li Chunfa and the other 2. One of their primordial spirit avatars has entered the divine dominion for the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. They want to kill the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Their primordial spirit avatars are not much weaker than their real bodies. How did they get in? The true dragon horn of the dragons can resist some of the suppression in the divine dominion. The dragons must have some sort of treasure to help them. Discussions broke out all around. Immediately, some experts saw the truth. Li Chunfa and the other 2 were primordial spirit avatars, and not their real bodies. It's a primordial spirit avatar. The old lady's expression suddenly changed. No wonder the school of legalism had remained quiet for so long. As it turned out, the school of legalism, the school of vertical and horizontal, and the dragon clan had actually secretly made arrangements long ago. They had used Li Chunfa and the other souls to enter the divine domain, hiding from her prying eyes. Not good, it's Gong Sunhua, Li Chunfa, and Long Tang's avatars. At this moment, Icy Ink, Xing Hun, and the old man of Skyho were also shocked. They did not need to think to know why Li Chunfa and the others' primordial spirit avatars had entered the divine dominion. Li Chenfa, Long Tongue, Gong Sunhua, you want to use your primordial spirit avatars to kill my grandson? Shameless fools. Do you think I don't exist? Her voice was like rolling thunder, piercing through clouds and cracking rocks. The old granny was enraged. Veins popped out on her aged face, and her eyes shot out a sharp golden light. Boom, boom. In an instant, the old granny's body was surrounded by a dazzling golden light. It was as if a golden flood had spread out. Golden talisman inscriptions flickered, and a blazing light swept across the heavens and the earth, carrying a domineering and fierce aura. Screech. The old granny's shriek pierced through the clouds. The old granny's hunched body instantly transformed into a huge golden-winged rock. Golden light spread out from her wings, and her body was thousands of feet long. Her entire body shone with golden light, and a fierce aura spread out, threatening to destroy the void. This was the old granny's terrifying real body. When she spread her wings, it was as if she could make the stars fall. The mountains and rivers around her exploded, and a powerful aura spread out from her body, causing all the demonic beasts on the Chunhuang mainland to roar and grovel on the ground. The terrifying aura of a supreme beast was unstoppable. Heavens! Is this the power of a real golden-winged rock? Countless pairs of eyes looked up at the terrifying golden-winged rock. It was hard to imagine how powerful and terrifying it was. They gasped, and their hair stood on end. They wanted to bow down and worship it. If you dare to touch my grandson, I will kill your entire clan. The old granny's huge real body soared into the sky, distorting space and time. Her wings cut through the void, tearing the void apart. She pounced towards the place where the legalism, dragons, and school of vertical and horizontal were gathered. Wherever she passed, countless small pitch-black spatial cracks burst forth. At the old granny's level of cultivation, once the golden-winged rock's real body was revealed, it resonated with the heavens and earth and could strike down the stars. This scene was extremely terrifying, as if it was going to destroy the heavens and earth. It instilled fear in people for no reason. How many people could contend against such a peerless golden-winged great Peng at this moment? Chapter 1750. All the experts at the domain realm felt a chill run down their spines as well, and their hearts trembled fiercely with terror. Elder Daipai, Ink of Ice, and old monster Xing Hun looked at each other, then charged out. They were well aware of the old granny's intentions. She wanted to attack Li Chenfa, Long Tang, and the other main bodies so that Li Chenfa, Long Tongue, and Gong Sunhua's primordial divinity avatars would give up on fighting Devil King Du Xiaofu. Legalism, dragons, the school of vertical and horizontal is really shameless. Old monster Xing Hun, Ink of Ice, and Elder Daipai all charged out. Wherever old monster Xing Hun passed, the chi of yin and yang swirled. Ink of Ice filled the air, and the mist turned into ice that froze the void. Elder Daipai took to the air. Wherever he passed, the earth rumbled, and the surrounding mountains collapsed. Kill. At the same time, the great golden-winged rock clan's first elder, second elder, third elder, and fourth elder, as well as the experts from the school of Moism, the school of Yin-Yang, and the school of agriculture all charged out. In the blink of an eye, a great battle had erupted. Qin Tianshi, Li Chenfa, Gong Sunhua, and Long Teng's expressions changed drastically. Originally, they had only wanted to kill Du Xiaofu in the divine domain at lightning speed. They had not planned on completely falling out with the golden-winged great rocks and the farmer family at this time. However, Li Chenfa and the others didn't expect that Du Xiaofu's cultivation and strength in the space of the god domain had already shocked them greatly. Just as their primordial soul avatars were in shock, Du Xiaofu was able to make that scene appear clearly on the Chunhuang mainland, provoking Garuda to attack and rage. Fight! This battle was unavoidable. Long Tongue, Gong Sunhua, Li Chenfa, and the others all shouted at the same time. At the same time, Qin Tianshi and Li Chenfa also attacked. The talisman runes around them exploded, and together with the momentum, it was as if they had turned into two worlds. They could overturn the heavens, reverse the universe, and reveal the sun, moon, and stars as they joined forces to fight the old lady. The old lady's main body had already rushed over. She used the most tyrannical method to tear apart the void with a flap of her wings. It was as if numerous pitch-black spatial cracks were descending, extending into the surrounding space, striking down the stars and tearing apart the void. This kind of confrontation caused the heavens to tremble and the universe to shake. At the same time, Old Man Di Pai, Old Monster Xing Hun, and Icing Ink were fighting against the dragon Soaring Dragon in the school of vertical and horizontals Gongsun Hua. Kill, GG. In the blink of an eye, the great elder of the golden-winged great rocks transformed into their true forms and streaked across the sky, blotting out the sun as they charged towards the legalism, dragons, and other disciples. Roar, rumble. Adding on the experts from the school of Moism, the school of Yin-Yang, and the school of agriculture, an earth-shaking battle broke out. Bang, bang, bang. Explosions rang out continuously on the battlefield. The vast mountains were blasted apart, the mountain peaks collapsed, and the heavens fell and the earth cracked. It's terrible. On the Chenhuang continent, the surrounding experts immediately retreated, not daring to be caught in the crossfire. They sucked in a breath of cold air and shivered. Especially at this moment, when the old lady of the golden-winged great rocks, Li Chunfa, Qin Tianshi, Gongsun Hua, and Icing Ink were fighting. How terrifying was that? These top experts could split mountains and rivers with the raise of their hands and turn into a great calamity. It was horrifying. There were also living beings who watched the earth-shattering battle erupt in an instant, their hearts surging with emotions. At this moment, the ones who felt the most uncomfortable were Li Chunfa, Gongsun Hua, and Soaring Dragon. In the Divine Dominion, Soaring Dragon, Li Chunfa, and Gongsun Hua's avatars were suddenly distorted by the void. They were enveloped by the strange 8 trigrams in the void, and their expressions changed drastically. The aura made them feel terrified and uneasy. Du Xiaofu was in the air, purplish-gold electric arcs rippling behind him, golden light flashing. Above the 8 trigrams, a vision appeared in the sky. The mighty aura was like the waves of the ocean, and the terrifying aura shook the heavens of the abyss. At this moment, the 200 dragons, legalism, and school of vertical and horizontal experts and disciples who were innocently trapped in Du Xiaofu's 8 trigrams in the void were filled with fear. Their souls trembled, and their bodies trembled. Even with their cultivation level and strength, they were completely helpless in Du Xiaofu's 8 trigrams in the void. Above the 8 trigrams, a vision appeared in the void. Mountains and lakes moved, golden light flashed, lightning flashed, mist drifted, and flames rose. For the 200 or so disciples of legalism, dragons, and school of vertical and horizontal, they felt a destructive power creeping up from the depths of their primordial spirits. It was the fear of death. They could feel the aura of death. Above Kuan, below Li, earth fire bright barbarian break. Above Qian, below Dui, heavenly lake trigrams break. Yes, above Qian, below Li, heavenly fire barbarian break. Du Xiaofu did not stop and directly made his move. There was no need to be soft-hearted or polite when dealing with the dragons, legalism, and school of vertical and horizontal. Du Xiaofu condensed a series of strange hand seals, and the 8 trigrams changed. In an instant, flames burned heaven and earth, stars appeared, mountains and rivers moved, the void collapsed, and the aura was destroyed. Heaven and earth resonated and surged. Under this terrifying power, the void trembled and was on the verge of collapse. Bang, bang, bang. The surrounding void collapsed inch by inch and was annihilated. Even the surroundings of the abyss were torn apart, and cracks climbed up the ground. Ah, help, Patriarch, save me. Patriarch, save me, save me. The screams and wails were incomparably mournful, making one's hair stand on end. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, the 8 trigrams turned into a demonic killing field. The 200 experts and disciples of legalism screamed and wailed. Given their strength, how could they possibly be able to resist the 8 trigrams diagram that Du Xiaofu had activated with his half-step nirvana stage cultivation? The 8 trigrams formed by the 8 trigrams was Du Xiaofu's strongest trump card, besides the purple thunder profound cauldron. These people's meridians and souls were exploding, and their bodies were cracking. Some of their primordial spirits tried to escape, but they could not escape the 8 trigrams. Their bodies and souls were destroyed, and blood splattered everywhere. The experts and disciples of the 3 great clans were crying for help, hoping that their powerful elders could save them. They hoped that it was their patriarch. Unfortunately, these people did not know that Li Chunfa, Long Tong, and Gongsun Hua were trapped in Du Xiaofu's 8 trigrams in the void and could not escape. Li Chunfa, Long Tong, and Gongsun Hua, these 3 doppelgangers, finally realized how terrifying Du Xiaofu was. They were truly uneasy. Bang, bang, bang. Within the 8 trigrams, the people of the 3 families kept exploding, as if they were ants. It was a shocking sight. Oh my God, the Demon King Du Xiaofu is on a killing spree again. Du Xiaofu's 8 trigrams. What kind of terrifying technique is that? It's too terrifying. When the people on the Chunhuang mainland saw the scene that appeared in the divine domain, their hair stood on end as they looked up. Their throats were dry, and they swallowed hard. Rumble. The experts of the 3 families were not ordinary. Some of them had many tricks up their sleeves. They soared into the sky, trying to escape. It was quite effective, but they were too weak. Compared to the current Du Xiaofu, these experts from the 3 clans who had entered the divine domain were too weak. They could not break free completely and were immediately blocked by Du Xiaofu's 8 trigrams. Du Xiaofu just stood in the center of the 8 trigrams. His hand seals were formed, and the 8 trigrams mysteries were activated. No one could escape. Du Xiaofu was on a killing spree, showing no mercy. This was also why Du Xiaofu was on a killing spree in front of the outside world. He wanted to leave no one alive. Du Xiaofu, I'll fight you to the death, you little piece of shit. This killing spree killed many dragons. Long Tongue was enraged. His primordial spirit doppelganger transformed into a white cloud dragon. He could fly through the 8 trigrams in the void, his dragon claws waving. His dragon's might was unparalleled, and his dragon's breath rolled. Roar! The dragon's roar shook the heavens and the earth. With a vast momentum, the dragon's claws tore through the void, covering a large area, and rushed out to grab Du Xiaofu. A dragon soul doppelganger was suppressed in the divine domain, but at this moment, it was enough to prove Long Tongue's strength. The dragon's might was torrential. As an ancestor of the dragons, Long Tongue's doppelganger was already so powerful. Du Xiaofu counterattacked. His purple robe fluttered, and his whole body glowed. His hand seals were formed, and with a thought, a huge mountain peak materialized from the 8 trigrams. It directly collided with the giant dragon's shadow formed by Long Tongue. Accompanied by the saint's might, the void was hazy. Boom! This collision caused the void to tremble. Even someone as powerful as Long Tongue was pushed back. Roar! However, the dragon roared in the void. In an instant, Long Tingyun's dragon body turned around. Its huge tail soared into the sky. Its head was raised vertically, and it opened its ferocious mouth. On its slightly illusory dragon body, the dragon's dragon eyes were as bright as stars as it pounced towards Du Xiaofu. Heaven above and earth below, heavenly thunder destruction. Boom! Du Xiaofu's mind stirred, and the 8 trigrams diagram surged with surging waves. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled as heavenly thunder rolled. Runes interweaved resplendently and traversed across the universe. Bolts of lightning descended like heavenly thunder, bringing with them the chi of extreme yang. They were the nemesis of primordial spirits and directly blasted Long Tongyun's dragon body away, causing the runes to dim. Bastard! But at this moment, Gongsun Hua's attack arrived. With a flick of his sleeve, his body was covered in flames. In an instant, the roaring flames engulfed the void. This was no ordinary fire. It was enough to dry a cultivator's body, shatter his bones, and destroy his soul. This was Gongsun Hua's profound meaning of fire, the divine fire of Shaoyang. This level of fire was too terrifying. It could destroy everything, including the void. The terrifying flames boiled the void and drowned everything. Gongsun Hua was very powerful, so powerful that he was no weaker than Long Tongue. Even from across the void, one could feel the terrifying power of the flames. It could burn one's skin, shrivel one's primordial spirit, and make one gasp. But Du Xiaofu was not afraid. If Du Xiaofu had met Gong Sunhua when he was not suppressed, Du Xiaofu might have been a little wary. But now that Gong Sunhua was suppressed, Du Xiaofu was not afraid. Chapter 1751. As everyone watched, the purple gold thunder rock destroyed the world created by Li Chunfa's spell. The purple gold thunder rock was like a storm, destroying everything. Whoosh! The purple thunder rock rushed out, flapping its wings. The rock's claws tore through the void, shining brightly as they grabbed the cloud dragon. The void was torn apart, and talisman patterns intertwined, tearing the cloud dragon apart. Du Xiaofu's figure flew out, his eyes glowing with purple gold light. His black hair flowed like electric arcs, and his entire body glowed with light. He was like a real demon king, his aura shocking the heavens. Boom! Du Xiaofu made his move. With a shake of his arm, the illusory saber formation in his palm flew out. Hundreds of saber auras soared into the sky and filled the void. The saber auras broke through the void. Together with the 8 trigrams and the 9 palaces and 6 directions as the foundation, the cracks of the pitch-black saber auras were suffused with a light that made one's heart palpitate. During this period, as Du Xiaofu's cultivation improved, the illusory saber formation became several times stronger. At this moment, the saber auras filled the void. There were 6,000 to 7,000 of them. How terrifying! Whoosh whoosh! Therefore, wherever the saber formation passed, the saber auras cut through the void. Gong Sunhua's terrifying flaming phoenix illusion was shattered by the saber formation, turning into a sea of flames that rained down on the void. Under the joint attack of 3 top-notch Grandmaster-level masters, the vast destructive force was destroyed by Du Xiaofu as easily as lifting a finger. Oh my god, Demon King Du Xiaofu is so strong. On the Chunhuang mainland, everyone looked up with trembling eyes. It was the clones of 3 great ancestor-level powerhouses and the combined attack of the 3 of them, but it was so weak that Du Xiaofu easily neutralized it. They were Grandmaster Li Chunfa of Legalism, Grandmaster Long Ting of the Dragons, and Grandmaster Gong Sunhua of the School of Vertical and Horizontal. Any one of them was a top-notch master, and any one of them had the power to defeat Kyushu. However, at this moment, even though these 3 top experts were only clones, they were still working together to deal with Du Xiaofu, a junior who had risen not long ago. Yet, they were still being suppressed. To them, this was simply an absolute humiliation. You 3 old fogies are not that strong, Du Xiaofu said as he stepped on the 8 trigrams. The purple gold thunder rock rocks, purple gold thunder rock, purple gold thunder rock, purple gold thunder. Li Chunfa, Li, Long, and Gong Sunhua. Li. Some of the experts on the Chunhuang mainland side, Li Chunfa and the other 2 peerless characters of the current era, were being looked down upon by Du Xiaofu even after joining forces. This was probably the first time in history that something like this had happened. However, at this moment, everyone present knew that this was all because the Demon King Du Xiaofu was too powerful. He was so powerful that he could actually look down on Li Chunfa, Long Tong, and Gong Sunhua. Half-step reincarnation nirvana. Demon King Du Xiaofu has stepped into half-step reincarnation. He is only half a step away from reincarnation nirvana. On a mountain peak in the distance, a super strong cultivator looked at the void revealed by the divine dominion. He could feel Du Xiaofu's cultivation aura at this moment, and his eyes shone with a divine light. What a monster! On a mountain peak, an old figure stood in the air, his heart trembling. This kind of breakthrough speed was shocking to the world. At this moment, the living beings on the Chunhuang mainland were shocked as they looked at the miraculous purple-robed man in the divine dominion. Whoosh! Li Chunfa, Long Ting, and Gong Sunhua's doppelgangers were pushed back, their eyes filled with shock. At this moment, they finally realized that the Du Xiaofu they had looked down upon before was already so powerful. Old man, your doppelgangers must die. Du Xiaofu took the initiative to attack. The real rock wings on his back spread out and swept across the void. The talisman runes exploded, and the huge purple-gold thunder rock under his feet disappeared. His wings streaked across the void like a divine rainbow, and he quickly chased after Long Tongue's cloud dragon body, which was the largest in size. Bang! Long Ting fought with all his strength, but the huge cloud dragon shadow was still sent flying, as if it was no match for him at all. In reality, Li Chunfa and the other doppelgangers were indeed no match for him. The auras of their doppelgangers were suppressed to the Grand Dominion realm by the Divine Dominion. It was difficult for them to even reach the peak of the Grand Dominion realm. Du Xiaofu had not reached the peak of the Nirvana realm, but he had already defeated the doppelgangers in the light screen. He could be said to be invincible in the same realm. Moreover, Du Xiaofu was already half a step away from the Nirvana realm. The power of his primordial spirit and the celestial qi in his God's Watchtower had increased dramatically. Most importantly, Du Xiaofu had already reached the immeasurable Nirvana realm. His combat strength had increased by more than just a little. Furthermore, there was the influence of the 8 trigrams. With Du Xiaofu's current strength, he could easily crush the doppelgangers of Li Chunfa and the other 2 without even using the immeasurable Nirvana realm. Oh no, we miscalculated. We are suppressed in the Divine Dominion. We can't do anything to this little bastard. Let's get out of here. As Long Tongue was pushed back again, Gong Sunhua shouted. His old face was filled with hatred. This result made it clear to Gong Sunhua and the others that they had failed once again. They had miscalculated. Li Chunfa and the rest took everything into account, but they did not estimate that Du Xiaofu's breakthrough speed would be so fast. As for them, they were suppressed by the space of the divine domain. Because of this, they were suppressed by Du Xiaofu. Let's get out of here first, quick. The 3 of them were afraid. If something happened to their doppelgangers, their true bodies would be severely injured. Their primordial spirit doppelgangers were not simply formed from the power of the primordial spirit. They were real primordial spirit doppelgangers that were connected to the primordial spirit of their true bodies. There could be no accidents. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, the 3 of them communicated telepathically. The talisman patterns on their bodies burned. Boundless energy surged and exploded. They wanted to break free from the control of Du Xiaofu's 8 trigrams. Let's get out of here first, then think about what to do next. You want to escape? Too bad it's too late. Du Xiaofu stepped into the void. His hand seals changed. How could he let these 3 primordial spirit doppelgangers escape so easily? Rumble. The 8 trigrams rumbled. The vision became more intense and dazzling. It was as if a whole world had appeared and connected together. It was dazzling and shocking. The vast power trapped Li Chunfa and the others. Little bastard, you can't trap us. Li Chunfa shouted angrily. The coldness in his eyes shot to the sky. Rumble. The bodies of the 3 avatars were burning, and a terrifying aura poured out like a waterfall. They emitted a light that was like the aura of chaos, and they really wanted to break free from the suppression of Du Xiaofu's 8 trigrams. But Du Xiaofu was still attacking. His hand seals changed. When the last seal was formed, a silver-gold electric arc shot out, releasing a violent and destructive aura. Boom, boom. Another wave of supreme being pressure descended. In an instant, the sky was filled with silver-gold thunderbolts that swept out and spread across the void. The aura of the electric arc was ancient. It was accompanied by the aura of the 4 types of spiritual lightning, the silver silk soul-devouring thunder, earth-shattering thunder, soul-extinguishing thunder, and golden crow sky-burning thunder. There was also a terrifying spiritual root aura. These were the 4 types of spiritual lightning that Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit doppelgangers and the mysterious spiritual root. Lightning flashed in the sky. The silver-gold electric arc spread in all directions. It was so bright that it covered the sky and the sun. There was an ancient and domineering aura. It was desolate and magnificent. It could not be provoked and contained violent destruction. Rumble. When the 4 types of spiritual lightning appeared in the void, lightning flashed and thunder roared. It shook the Chenhuang mainland. Thunder rumbled in all directions as if it was going to destroy the world. The fusion of spiritual lightning was the nemesis of primordial spirits. The silver silk soul devouring thunder was the nemesis of all nemeses of primordial spirits. The surrounding spiritual lightning, the spiritual root of my legalism, and Han Shinran's soul extinguishing thunder have also been fused by that little bastard. Li Chunfa's primordial spirit doppelganger trembled. He immediately caught the aura of the soul extinguishing thunder. But at this moment, after the fusion of the 4 types of spiritual lightning, talisman runes exploded in the sky. They spread across the void and filled the sky. An ancient and domineering aura spread. It was the aura of a true sovereign that could not be resisted. It was not to be provoked, and it was also to be destroyed. Long Tang, Li Chunfa, and Gong Sun was primordial spirit doppelgangers were trapped and suppressed. They were also enveloped by the surrounding spiritual lightning. Rumble, lightning flashed and thunder roared. The waterfall of spiritual lightning morphed into a giant silver-gold electric tree that was deeply embedded in the 8 trigrams diagram. The silver-gold electric tree was accompanied by a majestic and desolate aura. The aura of the electric tree was like that of a supreme being. Electric arcs filled the void. Countless electric roots grew and sprouted. They enveloped Long Ting, Li Chunfa, and Gong Sun Hua, absorbing the energy of their primordial spirits. Then, to everyone's astonishment, a shocking scene appeared in the sky. Li Chunfa, Long Tang, and Gong Sun Hua's primordial spirits were swallowed up by the silver-gold electric tree. Then, their bodies began to fade, and finally, they were enveloped by the silver-gold electric arcs. Du Xiaofu, you little bastard. I'm not done with you. I'm not done with you. I'll never let you go. Li Chunfa, Long Ting, and Gong Sun Hua's terrified voices rang out. Their voices were filled with unparalleled hatred. Their primordial spirit doppelgangers cursed and cursed as they were swallowed up by the silver-gold electric tree. On the Qinhuang mainland, Li Chunfa, Long Tang, and Gong Sun Hua, who were fighting fiercely with the old madam, Bing Mo, and the others, suddenly spat out mouthfuls of blood. Their faces turned ashen. With their primordial spirit doppelgangers destroyed, their true bodies were severely injured. It would be difficult for them to improve in the future. Yi Wuming, Tang Miling, and the mysterious Drake King were stunned speechless at the shocking scene in the sky. Chapter 1752. On the Chunhuang mainland, there was dead silence. Everyone was stunned. Li Chunfa, Long Tang, and Gong Sun Hua, the 3 primordial spirit avatars of ancestors, were destroyed by Du Xiaofu just like that. The heavens were about to change, and the hearts of all the top powerhouses present were filled with great waves of shock. At this moment, the elders and disciples of the school of legalism, dragons, and school of vertical and horizontal were even more shocked. Even their ancestors' primordial spirit avatars were so weak in front of Du Xiaofu. Ha 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 ha, go for wool and come home shorn. This is retribution. The old lady's body covered the void as golden light soared into the sky. She had been spying on the movements in the divine domain and was naturally clear about it. At this moment, she was indescribably happy. Taking advantage of the fact that Li Chunfa was heavily injured, she attacked Li Chunfa and Qin Tian madly, destroying the vast land and overturning the sky. Gong Sun Hua, Soaring Dragon, and Old Man Di Pai. Xiao Yu had mistakenly written Old Man Di Pai as Old Man Di Pai in many places in the previous chapter. Now that everything has been corrected, I apologize to everyone. Icy Ink and Old Monster Xing Hun naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity. Garuda, must you fight to the death? You won't have it easy either. Qin Tianshi and Li Chunfa shouted in the face of the old lady's Garuda attack. Their auras surged wildly. They were ready to fight to the death. Di Chu, Xing Hun, Icy Ink, you dare to attack? You won't have a good ending either. The heavily injured Gong Sun was shouted angrily. Flames burned her body, and her aura rose. Roar! A dragon's roar resounded. Long Tang's huge dragon body soared into the sky, and a resplendent dragon claw appeared in front of him. The golden light was dazzling, and there seemed to be a golden dragon circling above the dragon claw. The awe-inspiring dragon aura attracted the attention of all the top experts present. The entire Qinhuang mainland was shaking. True dragon claw. Someone in the void gasped in surprise. That terrifying dragon might was too strong. They recognized that it was the dragon's most precious treasure, the true dragon's claw. They didn't expect Long Tongue to even bring that treasure out. The resplendent golden light and the resounding dragon roar were indeed the true dragon claws of dragons. It was by relying on this true dragon claw that Long Tongue secretly placed the 3 primordial spirit avatars on the bodies of the powerhouses of the 3 clans and quietly brought them into the divine domain. Retreat. The huge golden-winged rock's body retreated and turned into an old woman's body. It was about time. The old lady did not intend to fight legalism to the bitter end. Her grandson did not suffer any losses at all. Instead, he gained the upper hand by killing Li Chunfa's primordial spirit avatars. There was no need to fight Li Chunfa to the death. It's the true dragon's claw. Retreat. When they saw that Gongsun Hua was defeated to the end, and that Long Tongue actually had the true dragon's claw, Icy Ink, Elder Dai Pai, and old freak Xing Hun immediately retreated and stopped fighting. The School of Agriculture, Golden Winged Rock Clan, School of Moism, and School of Yin Yang also retreated and stopped fighting legalism. The fierce battle came quickly and ended just as quickly. Whoosh! As Li Qinfa and the other 2 primordial spirit avatars were swallowed. In the divine domain, the giant silver gold lightning tree also turned into an electric arc and returned to Du Xiaofu's forehead. The 8 trigrams in the void dissipated. The terrifying energy in the sky also stopped abruptly and dissipated into nothingness. Du Xiaofu floated in the void. The real rock's golden wings spread behind his back. His entire body exuded an indescribable pressure. His gaze was like lightning as he looked at the Qinhuang mainland and pointed at Li Chunfa, Long Tang, and Gongsun Hua, who were vomiting blood. You 3 old fools, I'll destroy your avatars first. When I come out, I'll wash my neck clean and chop off your heads and kick them around like balls. His voice thundered and resounded through the void. They were directly pointing at 3 old ancestor-level powerhouses. Their peerlessly domineering aura was something that no one in the same generation could compare to. As soon as he finished speaking, the ancient runes in the space of the god domain began to fade. The mirage-like void of the abyss also gradually disappeared and returned to normal. In the void, Li Chunfa, Long Tang, and Gongsun Hua's eyes twitched and their faces contorted. No one knew whether it was because of their injuries or because they were angered by Du Xiaofu, but they spat out blood again, staining their robes red. Huff. The entire Qinhuang mainland was still a little quiet. Gradually, the sound of people inhaling cold breaths could be heard. For the disciples and experts of legalism, dragons, and the school of vertical and horizontal, they were all at a loss. They could not accept and believe that the primordial spirit avatars of the elders were also killed by Du Xiaofu and were severely injured. Legalism, school of vertical and horizontal, and dragons have fallen again. The younger generation is almost wiped out. Now, Li Chunfa, Long Tong, and Gongsun Hua's primordial spirit avatars are destroyed and their foundations are damaged. This Du Xiaofu is the nemesis of legalism, school of vertical and horizontal and dragons. Looks like the fortunes of legalism, school of vertical and horizontal, and dragons are about to fall. The rise of the desolate nation means that someone has to fall. Some of the top experts discussed and sighed. Who would have thought that Du Xiaofu is already half a step away from nirvana? Even without entering the supreme tomb, it looks like he's still got a great opportunity. Such a speed of breakthrough is too monstrous. Old Man Di Pai, Icy Ink, and old monster Xing Hun retreated and were also discussing and exclaiming in their hearts. Today's scene was destined to shock the world. Originally, no matter how shocked everyone was about Du Xiaofu, they were still just juniors. Even though Du Xiaofu had killed an existence like Qin Wudi and shocked everyone, the first thing that came to everyone's mind was that Du Xiaofu was the #1 person of his generation. But at this moment, Li Chunfa, Long Tong, and Gongsun Hua's primordial spirit avatars were destroyed. Du Xiaofu pointed at Li Chunfa and the other 2 and threatened to kill their true bodies. Only then did the world truly realize that the Demon King Du Xiaofu had completely risen in this short period of time to the point where he could compete with the top experts of the world. Quietly, the Demon King Du Xiaofu had completely shocked the world by killing the 3 primordial spirit avatars of Li Chunfa, Longtang, and Gongsun Hua. From today onwards, no one would treat Du Xiaofu as a junior anymore. The Demon King Du Xiaofu had completely risen, which also meant that the desolate country had completely risen. The abyss was a mess, and everything within 1,000 miles had been turned into ruins. Du Xiaofu's figure landed, and his face was a little pale. That was due to exhaustion, but it wasn't a big deal. Thunder Eagle King, Mianming King, help me do something. Pass down the order to kill all the dragons, legalism, and school of vertical and horizontal in the divine domain. Leave no one alive. After Du Xiaofu's figure landed, he said to Thunder Eagle King and Mianming King, the divine domain might close and disappear, and there were still a few scattered legalism, school of vertical and horizontal, and dragons inside. Once they left, it wouldn't be so easy to kill them, and they wouldn't have such an advantage. No problem. Thunder Eagle King and Mianming King nodded. I'm going into seclusion for a few days. Help me stand guard. Du Xiaofu said to Mo Tianxiao. Then, he brought the injured Yi Wuming, mysterious Dragon King, Tang Miling, Ji Jiyan, and the others into the desolate ancient space. They found a cave nearby and began their seclusion. Li Chunfa, Longtang, and Gongsun Hua's primordial spirit avatars could enter the divine domain, and perhaps others could as well. Du Xiaofu had to be on guard and maintain his peak condition at all times. Most importantly, Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit had devoured Li Chunfa, Longtang, and Gongsun Hua's primordial spirit avatars with the Silvernet Soul devouring lightning talent. To Du Xiaofu, this was a vast and unparalleled primordial spirit energy. He had yet to completely refine it, and problems could arise at any time. Therefore, Du Xiaofu didn't dare to stay. He immediately entered the desolate ancient space, intending to refine the 3 primordial spirit avatars as soon as possible. Although Li Chunfa and the other 2's primordial spirit avatars were suppressed in the divine domain, the 3 primordial spirit avatars themselves were true primordial spirit avatars of master domain realm experts. Li Chunfa and the other 2's strength were suppressed in the divine domain, but their primordial spirit avatars were truly powerful. Any one of Li Chunfa and the other 2's primordial spirit avatars was enough to make a half-step rebirth Nirvana realm cultivator unable to withstand it. Although a supreme Nirvana realm expert was basically equivalent to an ordinary martial domain realm expert or a 9-star spirit symbol master. However, a primordial spirit avatar of Li Chunfa's level was definitely stronger than the primordial spirit of an ordinary half-step rebirth Nirvana realm expert. Moreover, there were 3 equally terrifying and massive primordial spirit avatars being devoured by Du Xiaofu at the same time. However, Du Xiaofu wasn't an ordinary half-step rebirth Nirvana realm expert, especially in terms of primordial spirit energy. Originally, Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit energy was comparable to a freakish physical body, but he didn't have many opportunities to use it in the past. Chapter 1753. After fusing 4 spiritual lightnings, in addition to the strengthening of his Naiwan Palace and primordial spirit during the immeasurable Nirvana process, Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit power was definitely not something that an ordinary cultivator of the same level could compare with. However, devouring 3 powerful soul core clones at the Overlord realm at this moment caused Du Xiaofu's Naiwan Palace to feel as if it was on the verge of exploding. If the energy of those soul cores were to surge, then it would be extremely dangerous. Du Xiaofu sat with his legs crossed in the hazy ancient space. He used the talent of the Silvernet soul-devouring thunder in his soul to completely refine and fuse with the power of the souls he had devoured. Du Xiaofu circulated the mysterious, incomplete cultivation method. White light rippled around him like divine white light, giving off an ancient presence. Although the 3 essence soul avatars were powerful and vigorous, they did not put Du Xiaofu in danger. As Du Xiaofu refined them, the 3 overlord clones that Du Xiaofu had devoured slowly turned into even purer energy. They surged into Du Xiaofu's red-bottomed horse monkey's body that had fused with his Yuan spirit and bloodline soul. The 9 revolutions divine Lei Lian revolved as the red-bone horse monkey sat there. Silver-gold arcs of lightning crackled around him as he radiated with the presence of a sovereign. He seemed like a god as his presence gradually strengthened. This was the direct strengthening of the soul. Cultivators found it the hardest to cultivate the power of the soul, but Du Xiaofu's soul had directly risen in strength. All of this was due to the assistance of the clones from Li Chunfa, Gongsun Hua, and Gongsun Hua. At this moment, if Li Chunfa, Long Tongue, and Gongsun Hua knew that they had paid a heavy price and lost a Yuan spirit clone, and not only had they failed to kill Du Xiaofu, but they had also strengthened Du Xiaofu's Yuan spirit, they would probably vomit blood from anger. As Du Xiaofu went into seclusion to refine the primordial divinity he had devoured, the Thunderhawk King and King Mia Ming had arranged for countless ancient demon beasts to search for the people of legalism, school of vertical and horizontal, as well as the dragons. Once they found them, they would immediately kill them. However, at this time, there weren't many people left in the divine dominion from the legalism, the dragons, and the school of vertical and horizontal. Under the influence of these ancient demonic beasts, many disciples of the desolate nation, the demonic beasts of the heavenly beast hall, the disciples of the mysterious charm sect, the mysterious underworld sect, and the ancient heaven sect, as well as the experts who had entered, gathered around Du Xiaofu. Space, ancient, boundless. The vigorous mountain peak floated in mid-air, shrouded in golden light. Its terrifying aura was overwhelming, as if it could suppress all demons. As the mountain rotated, it successively emitted strands of golden light, and the golden talisman markings seemed to have evolved and bloomed, causing space to be dazzling and resplendent. Rumble, suddenly, heavenly music resounded endlessly, like heavenly drums and heavy hammers, accompanied by the sound of wind and thunder. Within the golden mountain peak, a red-bone horse-ape walked out, its body wrapped in multicolored light as it roared at the heavens. Roar. The golden talisman markings on the red-bone horse-ape's body evolved, communicating with the heavens and earth. Its aura was like the beginning of the world, the beginning of all things. Rumble. Suddenly, 10 divine rings appeared in mid-air, enveloping the red-bone horse-ape. A terrifying aura rippled, causing the surrounding mountains to rumble and crack, and the heavens and earth to change color. This kind of perfection isn't true perfection. Suddenly, the red-bone horse-ape looked at the golden sky and muttered. Then, the 10 divine rings above its head rumbled, the resplendent light causing the space to become chaotic and dazzling. Finally, they began to slowly merge together. Rumble. At this moment, the ancient space trembled, and heavenly music resounded endlessly, as if the universe was about to be turned upside down. Then, the 10 divine rings overlapped, emitting a dazzling light, and finally, they merged together. I am me, not the heavens, not the earth, not the gods, not the humans, not the ghosts. I am also not the fishes, scales, feathers, or Kuin. I am the red-bone horse-ape, born to be supreme, and I am already at perfection. Nirvana or not, it doesn't matter to me. The red-bone horse-ape raised its head, and its golden spirit eyes shone, like dazzling golden lightning shooting into the heavens. Rumble. At this instant, the 10 divine rings that had fused together turned into a huge golden spatial vortex that descended from the sky. Along with the golden runes that filled the sky, they continuously surged into the red-bone horse monkey's body, causing the surrounding space to fluctuate violently. Roar. The red-bone horse-ape roared, and the aura of the beginning of the world rippled through the heavens and earth, causing the earth to tremble and the heavens to shake. At this moment, somewhere outside of the Chan Huang mainland, there was a vast plain surrounded by clouds, as if it had reached the end of the world. This place was deathly silent, and even time seemed to have frozen, faintly revealing a cold silence. This seemed to be a pure land that did not belong to the mortal world, and all living things could not set foot in it. A palace that was floating in the air mysteriously appeared. There was nothing holding it up, and there were no traces of talisman arrays, as if it was a miracle. Outside the palace, a middle-aged man in plain robes formed a seal with his hands, and there was an ancient bronze mirror in his hands that was filled with talisman markings. Within the bronze mirror, a strange scene appeared. An ancient and boundless space appeared, and there was a red-bone horseape roaring into the sky, and golden light flooded the void. Red-bone horseape, nirvana. Is this another variable? The middle-aged man spoke, and his aura was ethereal. He stood outside the door of the palace, as if he was the ruler of this world. His eyes looked at the changes in the bronze mirror, and ripples appeared in his eyes, as if he was thinking about something. Every action of his seemed to have merged with this space, and the expression on his face was calm and subtle. In the ancient and boundless space, after a long time, the shocking commotion finally calmed down. The golden light slowly dissipated, and everything returned to normal. The crystal-clear red-bone horseape then turned into a young man in golden robes and walked out. He had handsome features, and his entire body emitted an aura of a king that could shake the world. Just a little bit more to break through the nirvana stage, just a little bit more. The young man in golden robes had a head of golden hair that reached his shoulders, and he was skinny and tall. Under his thick eyebrows were a pair of bright golden eyes, and there seemed to be some regret in them. But then, a smile appeared on his face, and the smile of his eyes seemed to be able to steal one's soul. He said, "I wonder how Xiaofu is doing now. This time, the big brother position should be mine." "Ha ha!" Laughter rang out, and the young man in golden robes shook his long sleeves. He was handsome and outstanding, and he had the aura of a king that could rule the world. Then, his figure disappeared into the void. In the divine domain, in the ancient and boundless space, in a misty void, a strange dragon was entrenched, and its body was rippling with golden flames. This strange dragon was astonishing, and it spread its wings like a phoenix. Starlight rippled, and golden light shone resplendently. The black tortoise divine shell on its back was suffused with an ink-black radiance, and it was completely fusing with its body. Gee! In the void, the cry of a phoenix resounded. In front of the strange dragon, the space fluctuated, and a resplendent seven-colored phoenix shadow appeared, flapping its wings and rising up. This phoenix shadow was too astonishing, as if it had crossed through space and time, causing the space to riot. It was able to suppress space and time, and it wasn't something that the current phoenix could compare with. Chi! Suddenly, the strange dragon's tightly shut eyes suddenly opened, and golden flames spread out. The third vertical eye between its eyebrows had traces of golden flames jumping, and divine light burst out. A ray of light that made one's soul tremble shot out, and it was suffused with a dazzling light. Roar! The three eyes appeared at the same time, and the strange dragon's ferocious roar came out of its mouth, and the sound turned into sound waves that swept across the sky. This was a real dragon's roar, the sound of a real dragon, and it brought with it a terrifying pressure that shook one's soul. At the same time, 9 divine rings appeared above the strange dragon's head, and they shone brilliantly, bringing with them endless sounds of heaven. Above the 9 divine rings, the 10th divine ring condensed, and it was dazzling. Boom! Suddenly, the wind and clouds in the void changed, and heaven and earth trembled. Thick, dark clouds rushed over quickly, and violent winds blew. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, and it caused a strange phenomenon in heaven and earth. In the void, an inexplicable energy in heaven and earth was connected to the strange dragon. Under the shroud of the energy of heaven and earth, the strange dragon's huge body was quietly undergoing a huge change, and it resonated with heaven and earth. Chapter 1754. Dark clouds gathered in the sky as lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Terrifying arcs of lightning spread across the sky as a pressure was released. This pressure came from heaven and earth, mixed with the might of heaven. It was as if it was following the rules of heaven and earth. It was extremely mysterious. At this moment, the runes on the black tortoise divine shell on the dragon's body flashed and spread. It trembled and then began to melt. This kind of melting was not cracking, nor was it fading. It was melting. The black tortoise divine shell melted and connected with the dragon. As the runes flashed, it turned into a thick liquid that flowed into the gaps of the dragon's scales and seeped into the dragon's body. As the golden flames burned, the thick liquid after the black tortoise divine shell melted and spread. The ink-black runes overflowed and covered the dragon's body. Even the dragon claws under its abdomen were completely permeated. On the dragon's body, the golden flames surged and boiled. Countless mysterious runes could be seen connecting to form a mysterious black tortoise pattern that seemed to envelop its entire body. Awoo! The energy of heaven and earth shrouded the dragon. At this moment, 10 divine rings appeared above the dragon's head. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, and there were dragon roars and turtle cries. Then, among the 10 divine rings, 3 of them turned into the shadow of a giant green dragon and 3 of them turned into the shadow of a black tortoise. A moment later, the strange phoenix shadow that caused space-time to become chaotic turned into a blazing divine fire and disappeared into the dragon's forehead. Screech. At the same time, 3 divine fires turned into the shadow of a phoenix above the dragon's head. They were all enveloped in the 10th divine ring. A war. Screech. For a moment, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The dragon roared, the phoenix cried, and the turtle cried. The 3 divine beasts galloped. The space trembled and the earth rumbled, causing space-time to become chaotic. Awoo! The dragon roared. A beam of divine light shot into the sky from the dragon's forehead. It shot into the sky and connected with the 10th divine ring, solidifying the space. The energy of heaven and earth rolled and gathered. At this moment, it kept pouring into the dragon's huge body, causing the aura on its body to change significantly. Awoo! As the energy of heaven and earth poured in, every dragon scale was changing. The dragon's roar resounded in the air, containing a pressure that even he could not resist. This kind of pressure came from the heaven and earth and the soul. None of the beasts could resist it. Finally, the 3 phantoms of the azure dragon, the black tortoise, and the strange phoenix transformed into 3 streaks of divine light that shot into the dragon's body. The 10th divine ring directly shattered into a rain of light. However, at that moment, the golden flames on the dragon's body had also reached their peak. A terrifying might swept through the entire sky. Rumble. In that instant, the entire divine domain began to tremble. The earth quaked, the mountains swayed, the rivers surged, and the winds and clouds changed. Everyone in the god domain could feel this shocking change. No matter where they were, all of the supreme geniuses in the god domain raised their heads and looked up into the sky, feeling an immense pressure. Awoo! The ancient monster beasts in the divine realm roared. They could feel their beast souls trembling and prostrating themselves. The supreme of the beast race has caused a phenomenon of heaven and earth. He's extremely powerful. That's a true supreme. On the cliff, the Thunderhawk King looked up into the sky. His eyes were filled with lightning. The heavenly might that was spreading in the void had already made him tremble. If he was in front of the supreme of the beast race, he was sure that he would not be able to resist the pressure. Who is it that can cause such a phenomenon? The Meng King was trembling. She could not imagine what kind of beast race could make her and the Thunderhawk King, who had undergone nirvana, tremble. Even if it was a dragon or phoenix, the dragons and phoenixes would not be able to make them feel this way, unless it was a true dragon or a true phoenix that was reborn. In the boundless plains, there was a palace floating in mid-air. A middle-aged man in plain robes seemed to be the ruler of this world. The ancient bronze mirror in the middle-aged man's hand reflected the shocking scene of the dragon in the vast void. Azure dragon, black tortoise, and the legendary vermilion bird. Why is the origin of this little guy so complicated? Could it be related to Lord Dragon God? The middle-aged man murmured. His eyes were filled with astonishment. That peculiar phoenix was not a phoenix, but a vermilion bird. The vermilion bird that only existed in legends. Ka. As soon as the middle-aged man finished his sentence, the ancient bronze mirror in his hand began to crack and shatter. The scene in the mirror began to disappear. The middle-aged man frowned. He looked at the vast plains and said softly, "The last opening of the divine realm is about to end. The calamity is coming. This world has to be prepared again." Voila! In the boundless space, The phenomenon of heaven and earth had alarmed the entire divine realm. When the sky returned to normal, the colossal body of the dragon was in the sky. At this moment, the colossal body of the dragon was filled with a reddish-gold color. The wings on its back had turned from purple flames to a reddish-gold color. However, upon closer inspection, there were still purple flames within. There were also ripples of starlight and golden light. After a moment of silence, the reddish-gold dragon's body began to shrink. Then, it turned into a little girl of 8 or 9 years old. She was wearing a reddish-purple starlight dress. Her black hair was shiny, and her eyes were big and spirited. In the depths of her eyes, there was a faint golden flame dancing. There was an inverted mark in between her eyebrows that made her look mysterious and demonic. Her aura was filled with an unconcealable nobility. The most shocking thing was that the space around the little girl was distorted. The aura on her body had reached an absolutely terrifying level. It was enough to make one's primordial spirit tremble and make one's heart tremble. Father, Mother, after I help Godfather get rid of the demons in this world, I will look for you. The little girl looked at the sky in front of her. Her eyes glowed with anticipation. Boom! In the sky above the Chunhuang mainland, the space trembled. Light rain began to fluctuate and rumble. The opening of the divine dominion is about to end. The people inside are about to come out. Below the divine dominion, everyone looked up and began to rise. Countless eyes glowed. After such a long time, the divine dominion's final opening was finally about to end. All the geniuses and supremes inside were about to come out, bringing with them countless opportunities and legacies. It was exciting. We must think of a way to get rid of that little bastard. He is already a big problem. If we don't get rid of him, it will lead to a disaster. Li Chunfa, Long Ting, Gong Sun Hua, and Li Chunfa stood on the mountain peak, their faces solemn. This time, they had failed to take action personally. This made them realize how serious the situation was. Du Xiaofu's growth was too fast. It was so fast that they had already paid a heavy price. In the divine dominion, in a cave not far from the chaotic abyss, in the ancient barren space, Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged. Ancient white divine light rippled around him. His primordial spirit aura made people tremble. It came from the remnant of the mysterious technique. The 3 primordial spirit avatars that he had devoured were refined into purer primordial spirit energy and merged with his own primordial spirit. In Du Xiaofu's Naiwen Palace, on the 9 Revolutions divine Lei Lian, the red-bone horse monkey's primordial spirit and pulse soul fused together sat cross-legged. Silver-gold lightning rippled and released a terrifying aura. At this moment, if there was an expert who could see this scene, he would be dumbfounded. Such a powerful and terrifying primordial spirit energy was definitely not something a half-step to Nirvana stage cultivator could possess. It was simply terrifying. At this moment, just the primordial spirit energy alone was enough for Du Xiaofu to crush a true Nirvana stage cultivator. Whoosh! The aura on Du Xiaofu's body was even more powerful and surging. However, in terms of cultivation, it was still stuck at the half-step to Nirvana stage and did not improve. At this level of cultivation, if one wanted to improve, it was not just about Xin Qi and primordial spirit. Xin Qi and primordial spirit energy were a part of the breakthrough process, an indispensable part. However, the most important part was comprehension. Countless top experts spent their entire lives, but were unable to improve and met their end. They had a long time, and could even obtain natural treasures to strengthen their Xin Qi and cultivate their primordial spirit. The only thing that was limited was their own comprehension. Huff! A mouthful of turbid air was spat out from Du Xiaofu's mouth, after which he opened his eyes. The aura around his body fluctuated, filled with lightning arcs and shook the void. I'm still half a step away from Nirvana stage, but I'm still missing something, Du Xiaofu muttered softly. After reaching the half-step to Nirvana stage in one go, he was obstructed when he wanted to improve. However, Du Xiaofu was not anxious. His recent breakthroughs were already very fast, and too fast might not be a good thing. Moreover, a breakthrough could not be rushed. Perhaps it was a coincidence, and he was only missing an opportunity. Once the opportunity arrived, he might directly break through. Then, Feeling the primordial spirit energy in his Niwen palace that had already multiplied, Du Xiaofu's lips curled into a smile. He had always been very strict with himself, but Du Xiaofu could not hide his satisfaction this time. Li Chunfa, Long Tong, and Gong Sunhua could be considered to have brought him great benefits this time. Speaking of which, he had to thank them. Whoosh whoosh, a moment later, Du Xiaofu brought Yi Wuming, Tang Miling, Ji Jiyin, Gue Hua, and the others out of the desolate ancient space. Chapter 1755. Inside the barren space, Yi Wuming, Ji Jiyin, Tang Miling, and the others had mostly recovered. Greetings, Rock Emperor. Greetings, President. Greetings, Uncle Master Du. Brother Xiaofu. Many people bowed. These days, many disciples of the barren country in the Du clan had gathered. There were also many disciples of the ancient heaven sect, the Xian talisman sect, and the Ximing sect. Are you all right? Hongyue looked at Du Xiaofu and sized him up curiously. There was some shock in her eyes. She had witnessed the strength of the 3 avatars back then. I'm fine to begin with. How can 3 puny Yuan spirit clones be a match for me? Du Xiaofu said confidently. The corners of his lips curled up in a slightly narcissistic manner. How thick-skinned. How you shot a disdainful glance at Du Xiaofu and said, "It seems like you really have a lot of enemies. I've only heard of them before, but now I've seen them for myself. What kind of thing did you do to make them want to kill you?" "I'm too strong. They're afraid of me, so they want to kill me." Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. His eyes flickered and he said, "But they won't be able to kill me. They'll be the ones to die in the end." All right. Hongyue was speechless. Her skin was snow-white, and her face was exquisite. She could topple cities even without smiling. She said to Du Xiaofu, "I'm not going to stay with you guys. The barren space is about to close. I'm going to find my friends. I'll come find you in the future. You have to take good care of the little ant queen. Don't bully her, or I won't let you go." "Aren't you afraid of them? Why are you so concerned about the little ant queen now?" Du Xiaofu smiled. "I'm not that afraid anymore." Hongyue pouted, and then that alluring and proud figure flashed through the sky and left, leaving behind a voice. "I'm going to find my companions." This fellow, where did he find this woman? Tang Miling lifted her head and stared at Hongyue's departing figure. After that, she rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu. "Everything is almost done. There shouldn't be many people from the School of Legalism, School of Vertical and Horizontal and Dragons left." The Thunderhawk King and Mia Ming King stepped forward. In the past few days, the ancient demonic beasts in the barren space had been searching for people from the School of Legalism and the other. Good. Du Xiaofu's eyes flashed with a cold light flashing in his eyes. "Back then, we promised that as long as we recovered, we would follow you for 100 years. Now, we will fulfill our promise and follow you for 100 years. Suddenly, the Thunderhawk King and Mia Ming King knelt on one knee, submitting to Du Xiaofu. Before entering the Death Canyon, they had promised to follow Du Xiaofu for 100 years once they recovered. Now, they were fulfilling their promise. During this period of time, Mia Ming King and Thunderhawk King had a clear understanding of Du Xiaofu's character. They were even more shocked by Du Xiaofu's natural talent. Even if they were Nirvana stage practitioners, they would definitely not be wronged if they were to follow by the side of such a peerless rock in human form. No need for formalities. In the next 100 years, the two of you will be the left and right imperial protectors of the barren country. The beasts of the Imperial Heavenly Beast Hall will only be under the Imperial Protectors. Du Xiaofu spoke without any hesitation. Du Xiaofu originally wanted to subdue existences like Thunderhawk King and Mia Ming King. Nirvana Transcendence Realm experts like them would not be weaker than the 4th and 5th elders of the Golden-Winged Rock race. Du Xiaofu also valued and treated them with great respect. "Greetings, Great Rock Emperor. Greetings, Country Guardian Venerable." Hearing this, Thunder Eagle King and Mia Ming King bowed to Du Xiaofu and Heavenly Wolf Lonely Sky Howl. They knew Heavenly Wolf Lonely Sky Howl's identity as the country guardian of the desolate country. With Heavenly Wolf's strength, it was natural for them to be below him. "Greetings, Imperial Protector, Left and Right Imperial Protector." The surrounding disciples of the barren country, Du family, profound talisman sect, and profound underworld sect all bowed respectfully. Powerful existences like the Thunderhawk King and Ming King had joined the barren country. Without a doubt, the barren country had gained 2 more great generals. No need for formalities. Lonely Sky Howl waved his sleeve, indicating that the Thunderhawk King and Ming King did not need to be so courteous. His expression did not change much, but he seemed to enjoy this feeling. Wuming's eyes had a faint golden light fluctuation as he looked at the purple-robed man in front of him. He recalled the youth in the dark forest back then. Now, he was no longer childish. Today, he stood at the peak of the world and could compete with the giants of the world. Back then, the barren country was so weak. Over the years, it had been in a precarious situation. Now, it had countless generals, heaven's prides, and sovereigns. The barren country will rise completely. It will not be the same as before. Wuming murmured in his heart. Once the divine domain was closed, the barren country would rise completely. Even the 9 great families and the dragons and phoenixes would not be able to make the barren country bow their heads. Boom! Suddenly, the divine domain trembled. Light rain poured down and the space shook. Then, it returned to normal. This space is about to close, the Thunderhawk King said with some anticipation and nervousness in his eyes. After so many years, they were finally going to leave. Du Xiaofu raised his head and looked into the sky. As the owner of this space, he was still unable to control it. However, as his cultivation grew stronger and stronger, especially the strength of his primordial spirit, he was able to understand it like the back of his hand. The space of the divine domain was indeed about to close. Thunderhawk King, Ming King, summon back Yunzhan and give him a title. Call all the demonic beasts above the beast realm and wait for me here. Du Xiaofu said to the Thunderhawk King and Ming King. Okay. The Thunderhawk King and Ming King immediately left to make arrangements. They had their own plans. Rock Emperor, the divine domain is about to close. After we leave, I'm afraid the legalism, dragons, and school of vertical and horizontal will be waiting outside. Wuming said to Du Xiaofu with a frown. This time, the legalism, dragons, and school of vertical and horizontal suffered heavy losses again. They would definitely not let this matter rest. Once they leave the divine domain, they would have to face a huge battle. Don't be afraid. There's no need to worry. We'll deal with whatever comes our way. Elder Yi, there's no need to worry. Du Xiaofu wasn't too worried. Putting aside whether the school of Yinyang, school of Moism, and school of agriculture would firmly support him outside the divine domain, he only had the firm support of the golden-winged rock race. Apart from that, Du Xiaofu also had 3 blazing thunderbolts on him. This was his trump card. If the people from the school of legalism, the dragon race, or the school of vertical and horizontal came, he would be able to test the power of the 3 blazing thunderbolts. All right. Wuming nodded with a smile. Du Xiaofu wasn't worried at all. He knew Du Xiaofu's character. He wouldn't do anything rash. It seemed like he was already prepared. Soon after, Du Xiaofu said to Emotion Xiao, wait for Thunder Eagle King, Ming King, and Yunzhan to seal this place. The restriction here has already disappeared. They can come out. You lead them out. What about you? Emotion Xiao asked Du Xiaofu. I want to take a look inside the sovereign's tomb. Du Xiaofu smiled. On his resolute face, a golden light flashed past his eyes. He said, there are still some things that I haven't settled yet. I have to make a trip to the sovereign's tomb. Sovereign's tomb? Hearing this, Emotion Xiao, Wuming, and Tang Miling were all astonished. Du Xiaofu had already missed the opportunity to enter the sovereign's tomb. Could he still enter now? Moreover, the divine domain was about to close. That's right, the sovereign's tomb. As his voice faded, a golden light flashed under Du Xiaofu's feet as he soared into the sky. His figure turned into a rainbow, and in a flash, he disappeared from where he was standing. In the vast square, ancient modeled. This was the square in front of the sovereign's tomb. There was a huge battle in the past, and countless traces were left behind. It was originally a mess, but at this moment, it had mysteriously recovered. When Du Xiaofu's figure appeared again, he was already in the square. He slowly descended, his purple robe fluttering, and his black hair fluttered.